God bless you guys. Welcome to the Grand Quran study. Peace be upon everybody. Thank you so much, Sister Rusta, and peace be upon you all. And Brother Sajjad, and nice to see you, Brother Eddie. And we have a new member today, our Bengali brother Sentu. Peace be upon you. Welcome and great to see you here today. The Quran study, starting at chapter 9, verse 80, God willing. And it would be nice if we get someone that doesn't read a lot or doesn't rarely reads to volunteer. And we can get from 980 to 987. Not yet. Daddy has a meeting. I know. I see UUQ is back after like 8 months of absence. That's interesting. So do we have somebody to read a volunteer?
Yeah, I can ask Steve to read.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful if Steve reads. Okay, so we're gonna load that in the chat then. We'll start in a couple minutes, God willing.
Yeah, Allah.
We did it. Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
What? Do what?
Attacking everybody.
Oh, this is what I was gonna write. I was just gonna write peace be upon you, everyone. Please join us for the Grand Quran study, and then put the link.
Okay.
Just put the actual link. Can you do that?
Yeah, I know.
Like the event. God bless you. And I'll start sharing the event link in the other channels too, going. Oh, you already put. Oh, Atif is already ahead of me. God bless you. Dang, teamwork. God bless you guys. Wow, we're getting strong.
Wait, what happened?
Wonderful. Atif had already loaded it in the chat.
Oh wow, fantastic!
And Steve is already ready to start reading. And Lisa already loaded the verses. Wow, everyone's working together. Wonderful. I wanted to do it to 87, but I guess we could do that too. Yeah, just 89 is good. 80 to 89. That's fine. Wonderful. Praise God. What a great Quran study. And Sister Nancy's here. Such a pleasure to see you, sister. Oh, we got Muhammad from God here. What a pleasure. God bless you. Thanks for joining us. All right. And peace be upon you, everyone. Welcome and thanks for coming to the Grand Quran study. Please, I'll put the link for the event. Please share it with your friends and in DMs or wherever so everyone can join. And then we'll read from the verses, God willing, during VC1-chat, chapter 9, verse 80 through 89. Go ahead, Brother Steve. Also start as him, sorry, my name.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Can I start, Naveed?
Yeah, 980.
Yeah, 980 to 89. It's in the chat. Go ahead.
I seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Surah 9, verse 80. Satan's most effective bait, the myth of intercession. Whether you ask forgiveness for them or do not ask forgiveness for them, even if you ask forgiveness for them 70 times, God will not forgive them. This is because they disbelieve in God and His messenger. God does not guide the wicked people. The sedentary rejoiced in their staying behind the messenger of God and hated to strive with their money and their lives in the cause of God. They said, "Let us not mobilize in this heat." Say, the fire of hell is much hotter, if they could only comprehend. Let them laugh a little and cry a lot. This is the requital for the sins they have earned. If God returned you to a situation where they ask your permission to mobilize with you, you shall say, you will never again mobilize with me, nor will you ever fight with me against any enemy, for you have chosen to be with the sedentary in the first place. Therefore you must stay with the sedentary. You shall not observe the funeral prayer for any of them when he dies, nor shall you stand at his grave. They have disbelieved in God and his messenger and died in a state of wickedness. Worldly materials are nil. Do not be impressed by their money or their children. God causes these to be sources of misery for them in this world, and their souls depart as disbelievers. When a surah is revealed stating, believe in God and strive with his messenger, even the strong among them say, let us stay behind. They choose to be with the sedentary. Consequently, their hearts were sealed, and thus they cannot comprehend. True believers are eager to strive. As for the messenger and those who believed with him, they eagerly strive with their money and their lives. These have deserved all the good things. They are the winners. God has prepared for them gardens with flowing streams, wherein they abide forever. This is the greatest triumph. I might just read the one footnote.
Yeah, please do
for
that. 980.
980. If Muhammad could not intercede on behalf of his own uncles and cousins, what makes strangers who never met him think he will intercede on their behalf? Abraham could not intercede on behalf of his father, nor could Noah intercede on behalf of his son. 11:46-64. Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you so much for reading that. Do you have any questions or comments about the verses you read, Brother Steve?
Just the verse about the funeral prayer. It's my understanding, or it's my observation, that I think people take that out of context, and it's under it applies to a specific context, and it's not a general statement about any old person's funeral. Sorry, I can't think of the right way to phrase it at this point. It's a bit late here. Any other comments? Thank you.
Just on that, I had a question. And God bless you for that, and for you or anyone else. This is a question I've had for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. It's about the funeral prayer. Who exactly is it referring to? And I get this question asked all the time of me. My friend died. Can I do funeral prayer for them? You know, my mother died. You know, people always ask me this question, and I don't know how to answer it. I'm not sure who exactly is being identified in this verse. I've tried to make sense of it or just say these are disbelievers, but when I look at more carefully at the verses, I'm not sure how to determine that. So I would appreciate any explanation on this.
Naveed, this is specifically about the people who were, when they were invited to come fight in the name of God, they chose to sit. So they have no more any room for repentance or forgiveness, because they clearly chose the worldly life over what matters, which was to protect and to increase the community. So this is telling you two things: that there is a funeral prayer, there is a prayer during the funeral, and here is tusalli alayhim. So you have to, it's the same way how God prays on the Prophet. So it's almost a form of connecting. So you have to go to their funeral, is what it's saying. It's not necessarily the same prayer that maybe Sunnis do. Maybe you guys have incorporated this, but this is in regards to some people, they are not even worthy for you to go to their funeral. And peace and blessings on everyone. Sorry, I should have started with that.
Yeah, God
Yeah.
bless you. Thank you.
Peace and blessings.
I agree with the same sentiment. I don't think that this is a
blanket carte blanche ban on doing the funeral prayer. It's specifically for these individuals who refuse to go to war.
So you,
I wanted
so,
to just
oh, yeah,
The-
I
the
was
reason-
going to a different topic. Sorry.
The
no.
reason
Yeah, we can
I-
finish off this one.
No, I mean, this is just something I just struggled with for many years. So are we saying that this is not a blanket for all disbelievers? This is referring to this specific incident during the life of the prophet?
This is
No,
an
it's
example for the
referring to
people who
people mentioned in the previous verses, because it says, "For any of them when he dies." So we can't just take 84 and figure out what them is without looking at the verses before it.
the verses before even 80. So whether you ask for them or do not ask for or do not ask forgiveness for them, even if you ask forgiveness for them 70 times, God will not forgive them. So it is about this group of people that you can't go to their funeral.
It's very strange for me because these are like this. These are among the sedentary, right? These are not even ordinary disbelievers.
My own thinking is whether they are sedentary or not, for anyone to disbelieve in God and His messenger, if they die, you cannot observe the funeral prayer for them. So that the 980 qualifies these people as those who disbelieve in God and His messenger. And God does not guide the wicked people. So whether they are sedentary or not sedentary, if anyone disbelieves in God and His messenger, then you cannot pray for them. Because these sedentaries are like the hypocrites among the believers. See, that's my understanding.
I disagree, but
Okay.
I was just going to add that. See, this is talking about mobilizing to fight, and that's when you're going to know who believes and who doesn't believe, right? Because when you need to fight, you're going to find out who's going to be on your side, as with a group of believers and who isn't. That's going to be clear.
You know, disbelievers are not part of the believers in any way. But God is exposing those who claim to be believers while they are full of disbelief. And God used this scenario or whatever to expose this disbelievers among the believers. And this is why God is saying, if they die in this state of disbelief, do not observe the funeral prayers for them.
Okay, so
Yeah, I
but
believe that.
there is a note
Yeah,
about
I
the
believe
Arabic that is being used here. So sorry, when it's saying استغفر لهم ولا تستغفر لهم ولا, okay, so it's saying ولا تصلي على أحد. So here it's like do not pray on any of them. It didn't say do not pray for any of them, or of course do not pray on any of them. Sorry, to any of them. Ala
So-
here means on. So you're not praying for them when you're
So-
going for their funeral on their behalf. Here it's saying like
Right.
do not even like communicate with them when they're dead. Do
So-
not even think about
So
them,
there's two.
and do not go ahead.
There's two things for in this verse, right? One of them is doing the funeral prayer for them, Salat al-Janazah, and the other one it says don't stand at their grave. So there's two actions here, right? And so it's saying do neither of them. And I hear you, and that makes sense. And just from what I understanding from the submitter perspective, is that the messenger of the covenant adopted the funeral prayer, and he mentions it, and he acknowledges it, and he even performs it. And this is what one of the after the Friday prayer, since you guys all know how to do the funeral prayer. I think it says it's 4 units. It says we're all going to do it now. That's my understanding. So I guess we just take the Sunni one and purify it, clean it out, I guess. But in terms of specifically this one, regard to who it identifies, if we make it blanket for everybody, then I don't know, it might be difficult to tell. And I don't want to commit a sin either. So I'm kind of confused and kind of afraid of this circumstance.
Well, the person who is a clear disbeliever and atheist that person is not your friend. That person is already a declared enemy that you can keep peaceful relations with. But it's not somebody that you should go visit their grave and think about them, because from what is apparent, and God is the most forgiving, that they're hellbound. But this here specifically is about hypocrites.
Yeah, I understand. Hypocrites among these
What's
people that were
the
being
ayah
sedentary. 984.
Okay, thank you.
It says, Al-Shajim Sama, you shall not observe the funeral prayer for any of them when he dies, nor shall you stand at his grave. They have disbelieved in God and his messenger and died in a state of wickedness. So I guess maybe you're right in that, look, if someone's like an enemy, like let's say someone's openly atheist, they oppose God, right? Then they would fall into this category, I would assume. Am I wrong on that?
No, but that person, okay, so the believers are worthy of a funeral prayer. So these people are technically calling themselves believers. God is telling you, do not pray on them for their funeral. An atheist never had that in the first place. An atheist never had the right on you for you to visit their grave and to pray for them. So that's why that's
Salam
not
Muhammad,
discussed.
where are you getting the
Salam.
idea that the prerequisite is that the believers are already worthy of being prayed upon? What if God is just setting out a law that you cannot pray for disbelievers, period? Where's the
Because
prerequisite from?
the prerequisite is from the example of the Prophet. وَصَلِّ عَلَيْهِمْ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ إِنَّ صَلَاتَكَ عَلَيْهِمْ رَحْمَةٌ. So like pray upon them, like those that come to the Prophet is connecting with them, praying upon
Which
them.
verse is
And
this?
he,
Which
I'll
verse
find
it
the
is?
verse.
Yeah, I believe these verses are specifically for the people that God refers to on verse 81. So they failed to mobilize with the prophet when they had the chance to, and because of that, their punishment was God is informing the final prophet. For those specific people, you shall not observe the funeral prayer for any of them when you die.
Yeah,
See,
you
Pani,
know,
I'd like to share my understanding as well. Oh, somebody was gonna say something. I can go after, inshallah.
go ahead, go ahead.
It's
Go ahead.
just Ayah 81 kind of clarifies who these people are. The same page. فرح المخلفون بمقعدهم
Right.
خلاف رسول الله وكرهوا أن يجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله. So it's like specifically talking about who these people are, and God keeps talking about these people until I think
But
Ayah 85.
let's let Sister Fari give her
Yeah, go ahead,
perspective.
sorry.
Mashallah, thank you all. What a blessing to be able to share, like study God's word and share our understandings. God bless you too, and to be able to have this discussion. So, my understanding of this funeral prayer is, I think some of these things were said, but I wanted to kind of highlight and inshallah bring it together. So the funeral prayer is something specific, as it was mentioned. It seems like Dr. Khalifa did it. I was not with Dr. Khalifa, but I did spend some time at Masjid Tucson, like living in Tucson, and at Masjid Tucson with people who have studied with him and were with him. And my understanding is that the funeral prayer, it's something that's specific. So it's not like you go to the funeral and do the funeral prayer. No, it was like we did it. I think once we were at, actually it was like a conference, and one of the submitters, we got word that one of the submitters had passed, and we did it at the conference there. Or there's other times that I think we did it at the masjid, like if someone shared, or we knew that this person had passed, a submitter, and then we did the funeral prayer. It's a specific format, and I believe in, perhaps someone who was with Dr. Khalifa knows, can confirm this. I think in that we ask forgiveness for the deceased, if I'm not mistaken. I don't want to be quoted on that because I'm not
So
sure.
you're saying if you ask forgiveness for a disbeliever, that won't work. So because that's a sin, so they cannot be an idol worshiper, basically, right?
Yeah, so my understanding is the funeral prayer is something that's done for someone who, like, one knows is like a submitter or believer. And then in terms of the but this is separate from like going to services, going to memorials, going to funerals. That's all a different thing. This is talking about this specific funeral prayer, which has a specific format where part of it, like there's a different rakaz with Al-Fatiha, if I remember right. And it's been a long time since I've done it, so that's why I don't want to be quoted, but perhaps somebody else who's observed it can chime in and confirm if that's the case, that I think we ask forgiveness for the deceased. So because of that, I think it can only be done for submitters and believers. The second part about nor shall you stand at his grave, I think this one is it's kind of a specific thing, that this was a what this refers to the context of these verses and the situation, that these were people who were expected to strive. We know that as believers, like, we fight in self-defense, and it's basically, being aggressed on and fighting in self-defense and to eliminate oppression. So these are all in the face of aggression, and this was decreed for them. This is what God had decreed for them, and they did not pass this test. They did not do what they were supposed to do. And so God is telling Prophet Muhammad, so the second nor shall you stand at his grave. When I look at the Arabic grammar, and please verify all this, and if I'm mistaken, you guys can let me know. It looks like it's singular. So I think it's talking to Prophet Muhammad, because that would not be a good example for him to go stand at the grave of these people who did not fight with them, did not help them, did not support them. And so I think this part is specific to the context of these verses. And however, the funeral prayer is something that is specific, that would be for submitters and believers. That's my understanding.
Thank you so much, Sister Fari. God bless you.
I have a question.
Hold on. What is it about funeral prayer? Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, it is about the funeral prayer. Can I go right now, or should I wait?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. This is very personal to me. My brother just passed away a month ago. He was 27 years old, but he was
May God
atheist.
have mercy on him.
Thank you. But he was atheist, and so obviously he's in paradise. But then what do? Do you pray for him? Do you stand in his grave, or what do you do in this case?
That's a very interesting question. God bless you. Sorry for your loss. I really sincerely want to give condolences. I hope God makes it easy for you. If it's possible, I wanted to ask Brother Douglas if he's able to comment on. Assalamu alaikum. God bless you, brother. If you could just maybe enlighten us with your knowledge and wisdom about the funeral prayer and your experience for the last 40, 50 years, how was that conducted? How did you engage in the funeral prayer? God bless you.
The funeral prayers were the few times we did it at the mosque. It's very straightforward. It does not include sajda or prostration. It includes none of this. Basically, the person remains upright in qiyam, and the takbir is given 4 times, and the Fatiha is recited. Now, this isn't the entirety of it, but it is not comparable, obviously, to salat or anything like this. There is no prostration and there's no bowing.
You just described the Sunnis method of the funeral, just so the traditional. Let's just say that.
Yes, but hold on. So, Brother Douglas, can you just kind of just gradually walk us through the steps? So you face the direction of Qibla? Yes.
The reason, right, you face the Qibla. The reason why I don't want to walk us through it is because honestly, I don't remember them in sufficient detail. What I would recommend is that we post it. I know what it does, what it is, but I also am aware what it is not. Now, the positions and what have you, like I said before, are qiyam, the standing. There's no bowing and prostration. There's a takbir, and then there's a Fatiha. Right? You see what I'm saying? There's a Fatiha.
Yeah,
There's
I
a
understand. I think
you
what we might be
understand.
able to do, yeah, I understand. And I think, God willing, later when we have time, after the study or whenever, we can
Yeah,
share a video with you on how
yes.
it's done. And then you can point out, for example, the way the Sunnis do it, what parts, if there's any wrong, and what resonated with you, and what was you engaged in. And we can see how that's logical, reasonable.
Yes.
Brother Douglas still have some more to say. I thought it was
Yes.
let me get
Please.
the rest of what you
But
had to say, Brother Douglas.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think that would be more helpful, God knows, to have the video, and then God willing, I can comment more on the positions and what have you. Getting back to who should be observed. It's very clear. It is very clear in verse 84 itself that people who do not believe, you do not pray or conduct the funeral prayer for individuals who do not believe in God. Individuals who are confessed atheists, who do not believe in God, during the contemporaries of Prophet Muhammad, who did not believe in him as a messenger. Individuals who are atheists and clearly disbelievers, who do not believe in the one God, the hereafter, etc. You do not make funeral prayer for these individuals. It is very clear. Very important in verse 84. Very important. Let me
Can
complete.
one go to the funeral and not observe the prayer, but just to go, like if it's a father, a mother, a
Well,
sibling? And
I have attended funeral services or memorial services for relatives who are not Muslim, not Semitters. And I do not participate in any ritual or any prayer service or anything of that nature. I have went in recognition of, and what have you, but I have not participated in any form of prayer or anything of this nature. But it's important to bear in mind that the funeral prayer, that we clearly have a funeral prayer as Semitic Muslims. And this prayer is specific for individuals who do, in fact, believe in God, believe in this. And this has to, in some way, be demonstrated. Like we talk about the sedentary. The sedentary expose themselves because of their refusal and reluctance to follow the prophet's directives. They're lying and they're making excuses not to remain with the believers. In effect, they expose themselves not just as sedentary or what have you, but as hypocrites. In other words, a key component of this is exposure. When a person is a clearly outspoken disbeliever or atheist, because obviously none of us knows what is in the heart. God knows. It's not a matter of my subjective personal opinion. Well, I don't think this person is a believer, even though the person may have been Christian or Jewish or something. That's not the basis upon which a person should participate or conduct in any ritual or prayer. I hope this is clear. I hope that this may help. I haven't been.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, brother Douglas.
May I just add, not add, but maybe subtract? I'm not quite sure.
Okay. Possibly subtract.
Yes, I might be. No, not from you. I mean, just add confusion to it, which results in subtraction. So, the thing I'm thinking about is, so in a sense, if you think about it, if somebody dies before the age of 40, then we find out after the fact that, oh my goodness, whether they knew it or not, they believed possibly even more than I do, because God took them before 40 and they'll at least made it to the lower heaven, which is a great victory. And I thought to myself, well, then that means they are a believer. I didn't know they were, but now I know they are. So I imagine myself fighting in war and, you know, the opposition, you know, with you're fighting with all those soldiers with Muhammad. Most of them probably were under 40. And so that means that, well, oh my gosh, that one was a believer, that one was a believer. All the ones who die, most of them, they're probably believers now. So that's the thing. It's for me, the question is as well, would you make that assumption, or is it that we only do the funeral prayer for the ones who we know are? You see what I'm saying?
Yes. Can I respond to what you're saying? When I was in the Masjid Tucson community, obviously many people belonging to the community had relatives who were believers. They may not have been Muslims, but they were still believers. Whenever we heard of someone shared with us that a relative passed away who was not a member of the community, we did not make funeral prayers. This may have been that person's relative or friend, but they were not a part of the community. So you know, God says, do not make things difficult for yourselves. You know, remember the verses in the Quran where God says the people would approach Prophet Muhammad and they would have a habit sometimes of wanting to make things difficult for themselves without realizing it. We don't have to make funeral prayers for individuals that are obvious disbelievers and individuals that are not aligned with, identified with, and belonging to the community of submitters.
But
That
we're
makes
allowed.
sense. Praise God. So, for example, Rashad performed the funeral prayer for his mother, but he didn't do it for his father.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Thank
to
you,
me.
Navid. That's a perfect example.
But we are permitted to go to the funeral, not participate in the funeral prayer,
But Brother
maybe.
Tawfiq, how do you guarantee that doesn't
Nabi,
violate the verse that says, "Don't stand at
let
their
me
grave"?
Nabi, with respect, please don't cut me off. Well, Brother Douglas,
yes,
are we allowed to visit, like to go to the funeral prayer? We're not going to partake in the funeral prayer itself, but like we see the people and may God have mercy on that person's soul. Can we just show our presence and then not participate in the actual prayer, but like during the burial, go to the family members and may God have mercy on their soul? We're not asking for forgiveness. We're just asking for God to have mercy on their souls. Is that permissible?
I don't know, but I will give you an opinion and I ask for God's guidance. I don't specifically know. If someone passes away and they are not a submitter, but nevertheless they are not a disbeliever, you don't have anything to suggest to you that they're a disbeliever. They're a friend or relative or what have you. I do not read these verses from God as saying you are not supposed to go to a situation where this person is being remembered about their life. The question is, why am I going? Why am I going to these services? Am I going to these services because I want to show my respect for the person? If I want to show my respect for this individual, then we have to ask ourselves, in my mind, did this person believe in God? That's the only reason I'm going. In other words, I'm going to obey God and show my respect for a deceased human being because that human being also believed in God or tried to live a righteous life. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah. If I can address Brother Tawfiq. So when you're asking for mercy for that individual, if you're asking for mercy for the individual, that is basically asking for forgiveness. So that would be a sin. And then regarding going to the funeral, if that involves basically standing at their prayer, that's another commandment we talked about. That's 984. That would also be a sin. If you identify the person basically fits the description in 984. So both of those would be violations. Do you understand?
Yeah, I think one can just probably witness whatever ceremony, but not to pray for anybody or ask forgiveness or say, God have mercy on his soul. That's exactly the same as asking forgiveness for the
Yes,
disbeliever.
agree.
You can just
Agree.
witness, you can just go there as a witness to witness the ceremony, but not to pray for anybody. We
Okay,
should
so
remember that
there's
we should remember that these people became sedentary because of their disbelief, because they do not want to participate in war, and again, they harbored, you know, a kind of such a disastrous, thought about the prophet and the believers that they should be killed in the war. So their heart is so, full of disease and, this kind of thoughts that they had in their mind. And this is why God is angry with them. And he said, even if Muhammad asked forgiveness for them 70 times or not, he will not forgive them. You see? So they
I just have
committed
one
serious
question.
offense. They committed serious offense before God, and he's angry with them. This is why
Okay,
God
I
is
think,
temperamental.
does anyone else have any
can I
comments about the funeral prayer? Go ahead.
yes, so okay, so there's a lot of so God is telling us that those that follow hear the words and follow the best of it, those are ulul albab, those are the people of understanding. So we want to show as much loyalty that we can to God and his verses, but it is sometimes difficult when to always look at things objectively when it becomes things that are attached emotionally. Like, of course, our mothers, our fathers, our relatives, those are people that we value regardless of their view on God and the last day. But we always have to remember that on the last day, those people will matter zero to us because we are going to be standing for our judgment. It's such a scary day that a person will turn away from his wife, from his mother, his brother. So here on the world, it is for us to be as loyal as we can to God's verses. It's very clear. The funeral is a no-no. Standing at their grave is a no-no. Praying for them and doing a ritual for them is a no-no. If you are willing to jeopardize some things out of sentiment, just make sure that you have enough coverage when it comes down to the verses of God. So if the funeral is literally at the person's grave when they're lowering them down, that's where the wake is happening, then you should think twice. Is it worth it? Are people going to be upset? Yes. Is it worth the upset? Yes, because God is watching. See what I'm saying? So like these issues right now, it seems like a big deal to us, but on the day of judgment, it isn't. And the reason why we can't pray for these people is because they didn't consider the day of judgment. The Quran is an example, the highest example, the worst example is these people chose the worldly life over fighting and dying in the name of God. Our friends and families that are not believers, they chose the worldly life over than living with God forever and his blessing and his grace. They rather eat the food that comes out of fertilizer rather than the food that just appears beautifully and like amazingly. See what I'm saying?
MashaAllah.
Mashallah,
I
very
just
good
want
comment.
to, I just want to ask, I think this, when I read it, it seems to me that this applies only to people who have exposed or provided a substantial record that they are against God and his messenger. That literally they acted against, they were trying to defeat the messenger's cause. They, in other words, they didn't support him. Like Dr. Khalifa's father was absolutely against it, and he knew it, and it was direct. And so for me, I don't know. I look at this and I think, well, it would be. I mean, it can't be somebody I think is a hypocrite. It would have to be somebody who has exposed that they actively were against the message and God. That's how I see it. Please, somebody clarify that for me, because that's how I'm left thinking of it right now. Otherwise I don't know how to see this.
And also chapter 17, verse 23, your Lord has decreed that you shall not worship except him, and your parents shall be honored as long as one or both of them live. You shall never say to them off, nor shall you shout at them. And then the next verse, and lower for them the wings of humility and kindness, and say, my Lord, have mercy on them, for they have raised me from infancy. So, I mean, how does this apply to the funeral of our parents, whether they're if they're rejected the message?
Yeah, brother, it is when they are alive, you do all these things for them. But if
Okay.
you recognize that they die as disbelievers, ardent enemies of God and his messenger, you cannot do this because God is there to worship God. God even told you that if they ask you to disbelieve in God, you should not obey them. You see? So there is definitely a barrier when it comes to between you and your creator. So when they are alive, even if they ask you not to worship God, do not disrespect them, but do not obey them in, not observing God. So
Mashallah.
you can, yes, mashallah.
It's during their, as they're alive. Thank you so much, brother.
If I may add something, the God tells us in Assalamualaikum Salam in 9:13, it is not for the Prophet and those who believe. Alaykum Salam Muhammad. It is not for those who believe and the Prophet to ask forgiveness for mushrikun. And he gives us a clear example with Abraham. He tells us that when Abraham and the people that obeyed with him, that believed, when it became clear to them that their people are enemies to the God, enemies meaning they don't believe in the God, they dissociated with them. I don't think you can ask forgiveness for someone who dies upon disbelief. Someone who dies upon belief, yeah. And I don't understand the obsession with the funeral prayer. Just ask forgiveness for them every day if you want. It's not just one specific time, But atheists, Christians, whoever dies a kafir, I don't think you can ask forgiveness. It won't happen. God says whoever dies a kafir is a direct ticket to hell. So whether you ask forgiveness or not, it doesn't change anything, in my understanding.
I don't see the funeral prayer as asking for forgiveness for them. It's literally, the
Well,
prayer
why
is
would
not
it?
about them. It's about a ritual for us, isn't it? Isn't it
Why
literally we're
for
just
you?
obeying God, doing a commandment?
Where did the God tell you to have a funeral prayer in the Quran? A specific funeral prayer. I didn't see a specific funeral prayer.
No,
in the
he
Quran.
mentions the word. It's a concept. There it is, established. You shall not do the funeral prayer for them, the ones that have exposed themselves as exposed themselves as not for the messenger. So that
Is it
would
like one
be
time or is it continuous? Like you can ask forgiveness for them all the time. Let's say it's sorry
no.
if I interrupted you. Someone is at the grave, you can go like every day to the grave, sit there, pray to the God to forgive them. That's the point
Jeff,
of the funeral prayer. It's the God forgives
Jeff,
them.
Jeff, you're talking to somebody who doesn't believe in the contact prayers. He's got a different paradigm
Of
than us.
course I do. Of course I pray, I prostrate to the God. I even
Okay.
have a mark on
No,
my
I
forehead.
listen.
I see.
Yossi,
I
I
understand.
understand. I'm just letting
I
him the
I
context of
see.
all of this. All right, man.
Oh, I
So
see.
it's okay.
Oh,
There
I
you go,
see.
Jeff. And
Oh, I
before you
see.
get into a bit, you know what I mean? Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
No, but
Got
Jeff,
it.
I do prostrate to the
Yeah.
God. I do physical prayers. I just don't
Mashallah.
do 5 times a day. I do it
I
All
sometimes
right,
throughout
Yeah.
the night.
all right,
And
all right.
Fajr.
Thank you,
God bless you.
Jeff. Yeah, Jeff. You can talk with Yasin after and get into the nitty gritty of that stuff.
Yeah. No, but what's the conclusion? Do we have a conclusion that who this applies?
I
Do we
think we've
have some
made
kind of an
progress.
understanding?
Honestly, I really appreciate Brother Douglas' knowledge, experiences, and wisdom here. I think we've made progress. This is something we've thought about for years, and it sounded reasonable to me what was said, and also what Brother Muhammad was saying is that look, it sounds like what Rashad was doing is basically just a cleaned up version of what the Sunnis do, and it sounds fine to me. And we've had this discussion before. Look, he did the funeral prayer at the masjid. We have it on video. You don't need the body. A lot of people say you need a physical body in front of you. No, you don't, right?
No.
Because his mother died in Egypt, and he did the
Hmm.
funeral prayer in Tucson at the masjid. So clearly there was no body there. You don't need a body
Yeah,
to
Allah
do
Akbar.
funeral
In
prayer.
fact, David, I wanted to even bring this up to say, can one observe a funeral prayer in his home for a believer who dies
Yeah,
elsewhere?
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Alhamdulillah, yeah, this is
Yeah.
wonderful.
One other
Brother
item.
And,
also made
and
a
just
really
just
good
as a
point.
note,
Brother Jeff also made a very good point about regarding people that die under the age of 40. We know for sure that those people are actually believers. For people that are in our masjid and then they die over the age of 40, we don't know. We hope they make it, but we don't really know for sure. But if someone dies under the age of 40, we know for sure. And I think it will be okay to stand over their grave.
No, wait. We know for sure
Like,
that they are going to heaven, not that they were believers. They were disbelievers,
that's right.
right? But we know they're going to
I can.
heaven. But hold on, one thing, brother.
Yeah.
On 984, I don't think that excluded people that were under 40. I don't think we're supposed to stand at the grave of disbelievers even if they're under 40. That's how I understand it. I don't think it works like that. You can't just do everything, okay, because he died under 40, now we can just go the whole 9 yards for him. So I just don't
My
think, I don't see how
understanding
that
is
follows.
quite different from this understanding. So I just want to make sure that it's
Well,
also
brother, yeah, you
expressed.
get representation, inshallah. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, no, thank you. Because here's the thing: if we apply that, right, we take the concept of 40 and say everyone who dies under the age of 40 is a believer, and then if it doesn't apply to them, that means the only time you can do this is if somebody over the age of 40 dies as a disbeliever or as a hypocrite. You know what I mean? Which doesn't make sense to me, because for sure at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, people were dying under the age of 40. And who fell into this category. Unless you want to say categorically nobody under the age of 40 died, and things like that. It just doesn't logically make sense. I agree with what Navid is saying, that what matters, because here's the thing, what matters is what they did in this world, because again, it's the showing out to the world, to the rest of the world, that how this person lived their life, we don't agree with it. God may have forgiven them for it, but that's between them and God. And I've never really read anywhere that says that people who that at the age of 40, God does it because they're believers. In fact, even on the age of 40, God says that they're exempt from the test, right? They die before the age of 40 for reasons known only to God, or known best by God, basically known only to God. So God knows best why He allowed them to die before the age of 40 and whatnot, but they could have died as atheists, as Christian idol worshippers, but for whatever reason, God decided, I'm going to exempt them from this test. But what matters is what they did during their life, you know what I mean? Because we have to show outwardly to ourselves, to everybody, that if somebody lives their life like this, we do not support it. Thank you.
Peace,
Go ahead, Sister
everyone.
Fari. But please, for everyone, God bless you. By the way, my comment is not directed at Brother Elham, because if not, he's the last person that spoke. I'm just saying in general, everyone, please just keep your comments shorter. We have a lot of people here. Praise God, almost 70 people here. This is the world's largest Quran study. Thank you so much all for being here. But if we keep our comments short, we can all chime in and interact with each other and be more productive. God bless you all. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Sister Fari.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm sorry as well for your loss, Sister Zena. So my understanding is that this you cannot stand at his grave, that this applies to like the context of these verses are these people who were expected to strive in this way and they didn't. My understanding is that we can go to, so the funeral prayer is a specific prayer with a specific format that we don't have to observe. It's something that we can do, and my understanding is we can do it for submitters or believers, but it's not something that has to be done. It's not a mandatory thing. It's more for the people that are left. Once somebody has gone, their fate is sealed anyway. And when we go, so it's something that the funeral prayer, we don't have to do it. We can do it for people who were submitters, is my understanding. And that was interesting. Brother Douglas shared that it was done. It's been, done for people who are members of the community. And then in terms of going to funerals and memorial services, and I think that's fine. This is my understanding, again, that it's fine to do that. We just don't, we wouldn't want to observe, participate in rituals that are, not aligned with God's system. So now if somebody was an enemy, like a proven enemy of God, then, then we want to kind of think about, that's something that we may want to think about. Again, this is for the deceased, the memorial service, but that's something that I think, in my understanding, then it's different. But if they're not, it's this extreme situation of enemy of God, then this is my understanding. Thanks.
Thank you so
Please,
much for keeping that short. Go ahead, Brother Jeff.
Please forgive me for my chattiness, but there's one more issue. The issue of it's where by not going to somebody's funeral prayer, they're in the community. Okay, let's say we're talking about our community, and you got some people who won't go to it and some people who do this kind of thing because of these mixed understandings. And that's why, for me, it seems that it has to be a clear record that they were fighting against the messenger. It seems to me that. And because there's this awkward situation of breaking up communities because they didn't go to his funeral prayer. They think he's a disbeliever. And I don't know, maybe that's designed by God, but that scenario happens. And maybe somebody could talk to that.
I would like to talk about that, but right now it's Sister Essie's turn. Go ahead, please, reply, Sister Essie. You're up next.
Oh, thank you. Peace, everyone. So I did have a lot of confusion about the funeral prayers, but I think that with all of your comments, I think I'm kind of getting closer to understanding when I can and cannot perform funeral prayers. The only thing now I think that I need to understand is how to perform it. And I think Brother Douglas was talking about maybe he might be able to help us figure that out. So maybe at some point we all can come together and get that understanding as well on basically how to perform it. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful. And yeah, I will try to get in contact with Brother Douglas maybe after the session later. We can show a couple of videos and you can tell us if this is accurate based on your experience and we can kind of get a ballpark idea. I think that would be excellent. Brother Lehib wanted to make a comment. Go ahead, Brother Lehib.
On 84, it says they have this after tells you to do not observe the funeral prayer for any of them when they die. It says they have disbelieved in God and His messenger and died in a state of wickedness. So I think this may be given the criteria of who we shouldn't do the funeral prayer for, because okay, this verse was for the Muhammad and the contemporary people for them, but it's Quran is also for all the people until the end of the world. So why is this verse here? And why is the rest of the sentence says they have disbelieved in God and His messenger and died in a state of wickedness? I'm not sure, but this may be giving the criteria. Also similar verses, Surah 2, 186, it says, when my servants ask you about me, I am always near. I answer their prayers when they pray to me. The people shall respond to me and believe in me in order to be guided. So in this verse, responding to God and believing in God is the requirements for your prayers to be answered. So I see this similar to this verse. I want to get your opinion. Do you think this may be the criteria for it? Thank you.
If I can just comment on what Jeff asked real quick. Jeff, I experienced this in real life. It was very unfortunate. Really good believer, really good person, part of a physical community. We're all together. He was a close friend of mine. And then he had a disease, and then he died. And then he was 41. And since the manner that he died was not acceptable by many people, over 99% of the masjid boycotted. Over 99% of the community boycotted his funeral and burial and everything. But I went to it. I didn't see anything wrong because, as far as I could tell, he was a believer, and I believe that was sufficient for what God is going to judge me by. And I think another thing to show is the support for that individual publicly, right? If it's someone that's a really good person, righteous person, then it's a message to others that, you know, we valued this individual, we respected them, and we appreciated them. Because I could just do the funeral prayer at home, but I think the public presence is a social element aspect of the funeral prayer. That's my position on this. Thank you so much.
Just out of curiosity, like a really quick question. Would you guys go to the funeral of a Zionist? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
This guy, man, what the heck?
All right,
bro.
Mashallah, Brother Naveed made some good points that, and I think that's why in 84, like God is telling Prophet Muhammad to not stand at his grave, because it's like it's a way of showing support for that person, and God is saying these people, you don't want to do that, and there's that public social element as well, that, you know, as a community, like if there's a submitter that passed, that can be really hard for the rest of the community. And to come together and do this funeral prayer together, I think it facilitates the kind of healing and closure. So I wanted to share that. Thanks.
And ever since I was a submitter, I never visited any family member's grave or their funeral prayers or whatever. But that's sort of giving like my family members and friends like, oh, this guy's arrogant, this guy's too good to come and, you know, show. So what if the person's intention is not to ask forgiveness or mercy, but just to be in around the midst of the environment? So then the person can continue spreading the word of God, and at least they'll give an open ear at that point. Because when I don't go to the funerals, I get all sorts of phone calls and insults and text messages, and then I try to preach the Quran to these same people. They don't even want nothing to do with me, and they used that as an excuse.
Peace be upon you. Can I ask something? I want to know from the Arabic speaking.
Can I get a response to what I just said
Oh yeah,
before you
yes,
ask?
brother. Sorry about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Brother, I think that's the exact same dynamic that I was kind of hinting at as well. That look, there's a, we have to make a decision, but your decision can have negative impacts on your dawah, on your spreading of the word, because. Yeah, and I understand it can be a test with God, but do you trust God that even though this looks bad, maybe I just need to trust God that He'll control their minds. Perhaps it's one of those tests, but it could also be that, look, if you take this verse and have too extreme of an application, you'll create acts of insensitivity that actually divide you from the community. It's exactly what I was referring to. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I was gonna ask the
Brother Tony, or who wanted to respond to Brother Lehib's question? Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, brother?
Yeah, please.
Thanks.
Brother Liam, can you repeat the question?
He was actually disconnected. He just re-joined connect. Rejoined.
Brother Tawfiq,
Brother.
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Can you ask your question again? I think.
Sorry, I had to connect from the mobile phone because I'm recording. So the question is, did I interrupt anyone, by the way?
No.
Okay. Question is, if you go to the verse 84, Euzu billahi mineşşeytanirracim, it says, do not observe the funeral prayer. And the next sentence is for them. Next sentence is, they have disbelieved in God and His messenger and died in a state of wickedness. So question is can these be the criteria for who we don't observe the funeral prayer? Because those who disbelieve in God, His messenger, and those who die in a state of wickedness.
Hey, and we just got confirmation that Rashad says he's doing 2 units of funeral prayer. Brother Douglas, can you comment on that? So he's just saying it's just 2 units.
That's all it is.
And there's no, and the recitation of the Fatiha is silently done.
That's it.
So you face the direction of Mecca.
Yes.
Then you have a silent. You say Allahu Akbar. Then you do the recitation. Then you do the silent recitation of Fatiha. Then you do Allahu Akbar, and then you do it again, and then does the Allahu Akbar at the end, and that's it.
That's it.
Okay, I think that's pretty
Silent?
straightforward. Silent.
Silent?
Yeah, it's silent. It's silent.
Wait, how are you guys counting units if there's no prostration though?
It's just the two al-Fatihas.
That's
So
right.
dividing the units is the Allahu Akbar. Dividing the units is Allahu Akbar. So you recite the Fatiha, that's one
That's
unit.
right.
Allahu Akbar, recite it again. The Fatiha, Allahu Akbar, that's 2 units. Done.
Exactly. Exactly.
And there's no bowing, no prostration. You're facing the direction
Exactly.
of Mecca. I think that's it. We might have just gotten our answer for funeral prayer. We've waited years for this. I think that might be it. We can look into it more and research more, but I think
That's
a
it.
pretty appropriate and easy
Mhm.
resolution on this.
Mhm. That's right.
What do you guys think about now doing retroactive funeral prayers for people that we didn't know how to do it or that kind of a
Well,
thing?
that's what
What do you?
Jeff, that's what the Mormons do. They go back hundreds of years and just do funeral prayers for everyone in all the records. That's why they have all the genealogy. You get genealogy for all your.
But it don't. Here's the thing. The thing isn't it. We don't really think it does them any good. It's about us observing God. Is it not right? Is that not right?
Maybe there's a statute of limitations on funeral prayer, Jeff.
Okay, may I comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I know it's like Surah 2:48 and Surah 2 verse 48 and a lot of other verses talk about no intercession on that day, right? But then God asks us to, or tells us to ask for the forgiveness of believers, right? So I actually don't know where God stands with asking the forgiveness for like, please God forgive Brother Naveed, right? Does this benefit Brother Naveed? I'm not sure, but God does tell me to ask for the forgiveness of believers, and it seems like He does accept the funeral prayers for those for the believers who are deceased, right? So perhaps the requesting forgiveness before the Day of Judgment may be something that does affect one's may sort of impact one's fate. Or, I mean, like God knows everything already, but this is the point that I'm trying to make, right? If anyone wants to respond to that or comment, I'm all ears.
Assalamu
I had a
alaikum.
comment before, like just going back. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I think it's important to show up to funerals because what better reminder and appreciation of life that we have than to see someone. I hope this doesn't sound morbid, but to see someone that their time has passed, right? I think it's important for us to like witness that and understand we need to make the best of what we have while we're on this planet doing our test. That's all, everyone. God bless you.
Assalamu alaikum. The very purpose of the funeral prayer, it doesn't do anything for the deceased. There's nothing for the deceased. God says in the Quran that He already knows the fate of every soul, and funeral prayers are to remind us about the temporary nature of this life. This is nothing but a staging ground for the real life, the hereafter. And the funeral prayer, what we recite in the funeral prayer, Al-Fatiha, is the essence of life itself in submission to God, and that God alone is great. So we're not doing anything for the deceased. The funeral prayer is what God has called to us to observe. It's not obligatory. And God, in His infinite wisdom and knowing all things, did not make it obligatory because of the difficulty that it may present. And I'd like to go to verse 49, Surah 49, verse 7. God says, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim," and know that God's messenger has come in your midst. Had he listened to you in many things, you would have made things difficult for yourselves. But God made you love faith and adorn it in your hearts. And He made you abhor disbelief, wickedness, and disobedience. These are the guided ones. So, God willing, in our love of faith and in our desire to obey our Lord and Creator, the funeral prayer is as much of an individual's decision to bear witness that only God is our Lord, that we will return to Him. So the funeral prayer is not obligatory. The funeral prayer, if one so chooses, can be done individually in their own home. It can be done in a mosque or with a group of individuals. But the funeral prayer is not literally meant for everyone, particularly when I say everyone, the criteria are laid out in verse 84. It is very clear in 84 that you do not pray a funeral prayer. You do not give a funeral prayer for a person who is a disbeliever. Thank you.
Yeah,
Douglas,
might
I
be
have a
able to
few
correct
questions
that.
for you if you don't mind.
Inshallah, if
Since
I'm able to respond.
Inshallah, bro. Yeah, it's just about the questions that it's just about your experience in Masjid Tucson in
Yes.
Arizona. So, whenever you said previously that if anyone dies, like certain questions are upheld, right? Like, who are they? Were they a believer in God? What holds premise for like a value of a witness? Like, for example, do we just take one guy's word for it, or do we need a few witnesses? That's the first
As
question.
I said,
And okay,
I'm
sorry, go
sorry.
ahead.
As I said before, funeral prayers were offered for individuals within our community, within the community of submitters.
So, any
Individuals,
Muslim that you believe is worshiping one God alone.
not any Muslim, right? Not any Muslim, literally. Individuals who were a part of the community, who had
Okay.
professed or pointed out in some way that they belong to the community of submitters.
Is that because they're the only people you can truly identify are true believers in one God? Is that why?
Yes, because of their identification in the community and involvement, their participation in the community.
Okay.
And this is basically what these verses reflect that we're reading. The sedentary and the hypocrites may have been physically present to a very limited extent, but their behavior was not consistent with what they claimed. They were not among the believers. And that's why God says, do not, offer a funeral prayer for disbelievers.
And the second question, thank you so much, bro, for answering the first one. If you don't mind, I want to ask a second one, just out of curiosity, because I wasn't there. Was there any implications on anyone under 40 being prayed for, no matter?
No, that never came, but that was never a question.
Okay.
We did not give funeral prayers for individuals routinely who were under 40. That's
Okay.
simply making something more difficult, making things more difficult than God has presented us with. See, imagine what it would be like if a person felt that they had to give a funeral prayer for individuals who believe, if they believe in God alone, they worship God, and they were under 40. Imagine if all of these other criteria were applied, you'd barely have enough time to live, to practically live a day, to do other routine things, because your mind would be so preoccupied every moment you hear about the death of a believer. You hear about the death of a person who says, I worship God alone. And a person unknowingly would feel that they would have to offer a funeral prayer for this. Obviously, they couldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
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 Okay, thank you
Oh,
very
God
much.
bless you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that. All right, so now so we read the verses 80 through 89. I wanted to talk about 88. It says, the true believers are eager to strive. As for the messenger and those who believe with him, they eagerly strive with their money in their lives. These have deserved all the good things. They are the winners. So what's interesting is, in the verse 80 or 90, it says they make excuses, right? And we've seen similar verses about this. It talks about how the true believers, they don't make excuses. They'll offer whatever they have. Even in 92 says, they're genuinely saddened when they can't contribute. They want to come no matter what. This is a really good chapter on this because, 924, the famous verse among us, is that You love striving more than your own children. You love it. You enjoy it. You really, really appreciate the opportunity to strive in the cause of God. And I think these are the qualities of the true believers, as the subtitle says. So this is a good example for us, that we take these opportunities to strive, to do these efforts, because at the end of the day, our righteousness, our striving, our works in terms of our religion and anything to do with God, this is what's everlasting for us. But the worldly affairs are not lasting for us. So I wanted to share that and maybe get any other views on this issue. I don't know, Peter, if you wanted to comment on this or you wanted to say something. Go ahead. Sorry, we interrupted you earlier.
Wait, you talking to me?
Yeah, I think you wanted to comment earlier, but then we shifted away.
Oh, that's like a while back. No, I want to talk about just the aspect of intercession. And in short, I mean, it's look, this is one of the most effective baits for people to fall into idol worship. To think that some other entity other than God is going to determine their acceptance into paradise or not. And we have numerous examples in the Quran that this isn't the case. I just wanted to bring up two verses. So the first one is 63:6. And this has to do with verse 80. It says, whether you ask forgiveness for them or do not ask forgiveness for them, even if you ask forgiveness for them 70 times, God will not forgive them. So this is indicating that it's like, look, if God has decreed someone is going to heaven or hell, there's nothing anyone can do to change that decree. If you read 63:6, it says, it is the same for them, whether you pray for their forgiveness or not pray for their forgiveness, God will not forgive them, for God does not guide the wicked people. So, this concept of thinking that there's some other entity, again, some intermediary who's more merciful than God is going to admit someone to paradise when God has decreed hell for them, it's purely satanic. And then just one other verse, 66:10. It states, God cites the examples of those who disbelieved, the wife of Noah and the wife of Lot. So, here's people, it's their spouse, and they could do nothing to intercede on their behalf. They were married to two of her righteous servants, but they betrayed them, and consequently, they could not help them at all against God. Two of them were told, enter the hellfire with those who deserved it.
Assalamu alaikum. May I say something very short? I believe because they have to want it, because these people get this believer, they don't believe the hereafter. That's why they don't have a share, and they don't believe in themselves. Then let's say if my son, God forbid, and he's not believer and he's a sinner, and I keep praying for him, is it one way? It's not what God doesn't want to forgive them, because they never ask God for forgiveness. Then at their part, we asking for them is not effective. Everybody can pray for them. It's not effective because themselves, they have to want it. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so
I
much.
think
God
it's
bless you. Go ahead, Tony.
it's more or less we're not asking as submitters. We know we're not asking for forgiveness for any disbeliever or hypocrite. That's not why I'm asking, do we go to the funeral prayers? It's not to participate in it. It's just to show sort of like let the people that are around at least look at us so in a way where they can respect us, so we could preach the Quran to them. By far, we're not gonna promote people not to be idol worshippers and then use ourselves to act like partners and ask God to forgive, people that made their decision. It's more or less about the look and, just to maintain the respect. But I mean, it's a difficult topic to understand. But in terms of going and participating in the funeral prayer, I'm sure all the submitters know that we can't ask forgiveness for anyone, any one of them.
Thank you very much. I guess the other question I had is regarding someone that dies under 40. I don't even think they go to purgatory. I was pondering about this for a while, but I think purgatory is for people above 40 who mix their good deeds with bad deeds, and then they go there, and then God forgives them and they get annexed into lower heaven. But regarding people under 40, in Appendix 32, Rashad says that regarding Ted Bundy, had he been executed 5 years earlier at the age of 37, he would have gone straight to heaven. So that to me, I read that as he would have even bypassed purgatory. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I understood that.
May I have something to add to that?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, peace be upon you all. What I wanted to say is that the place where I live, if they are very they organize funeral prayer all the time and in ways which are even blasphemous. So what I wanted to say is that there were people in Pharaoh's kingdom who were believers and were still servant to Pharaoh, and they pretended that they were not believers in order to save their lives. So what I want to say is that I'll continue to go to the funeral prayer because even if it's blasphemous, it's not my intention to do that. And not going there brings me more harm from my community and like disobeying my parents and upsetting people than it would actually while I do the funeral prayer. Thank you.
I think we have to be careful though, brother, because when it comes to obey God's commands, Dr. Khalifa actually talked about this, that when it comes to directly obeying God's commands, you can't worry about the feelings of the people who don't share the beliefs with you. So if there was somebody who was saying, look, Dr. Khalifa was off his rocker, this guy, I just don't, he's just clearly going against God, and this person's actively against you, would you go to that funeral prayer? Would you, in respect to the community and all that? And my feeling on this is that, well, gosh, that would be directly against God, because this person was active, and he explained this, that we shouldn't worry about their feelings when it's. In other words, you don't stop saying the truth or doing the correct action. It's not your intentions that count. It's your intentions when all your actions are correct. That's the way it was explained. May God guide us.
Can I say
Wanted
something?
to, yeah, by all means, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been in prison few years ago. So I had a cellmate, and I don't know how to share it with you guys, but I'm trying my best. Okay, I will try to. So I was in a cell with two guys who's going to be hanged by the Singapore government because they killed somebody. So one guy, his name is Michael. He was intoxicated. So he he, he killed an Indian guy, but he doesn't know what he's doing. So Michael was hanged at the age of 35, I guess. But the other guy, I'm how should I put his name as okay, Harry. It's not his real name, but this is my friend. So this guy, he knew what he was doing. He killed his own niece. He killed his own niece. And 9 months later, they found out that he killed. I mean, like he killed. He got away. He got away with 10 years imprisonment. So now he's 38. What I'm trying to say is, yeah, the age of 40. So he knows what he's doing. Do you get what I mean?
If I understood you correctly, it's a little tough to hear the details, but you said you were in prison. There's two guys. One guy got hung. He was 35, and the other guy committed murder, but he was let go.
Yeah, he got up, but he committed. I don't know if he committed two murders or not. But he told me like that. But now he's out. He did get hanged.
But he's out waiting for sentence, isn't he? It's not let go as in he's free to go and kill another person now. He's awaiting his sentence.
No, he's a free man.
You mean he's
a free man now.
free? Okay,
Yeah.
so you do.
Even he committed murder, but he's a free man now.
But God knows best. He could be, doing another crime next, and then that's gonna get him persecuted when he's after 40. Because he's still too young now, isn't it, to be persecuted? So God knows best.
Yeah.
If he gets a death sentence now, he would have gone to prison to heaven too.
Yes. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. So the point is, he lived longer because he doesn't deserve to go to heaven now. Same as Ted Bundy's case.
Yes.
Praise God.
So I'm usually away from the chat, but I happened to look at it and saw that there were a couple of funeral prayer things posted. Is that two different people posted? Is that from, I think, like, where is that from? Is that from a legitimate, like a good source that has like the format?
From submission.org.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you're talking about Shabir or?
Yeah, Shahir
both
had
the
also
same.
posted. Okay, they're both the same, and they're from submission. But I wonder, okay, is this? I don't know if Brother Shahir is here. If his source is also that, because if it's
copied from submission.org, Sister Fari.
Okay.
Salam alaikum. Yes, sister. Yeah, I copied from the submission.org. Yeah, this is actually the way the traditional Sunni did. So what I believe, God preserved the funeral prayer like God preserved the Salat prayer. Salat, So the traditional Muslim already prayed the same way, but only messenger of covenant purified the funeral prayer. You know, if you go anywhere in the traditional Muslim, still is preserved. God preserved the funeral prayer. You know, so the stuff I see from the website, and it's messing with the traditional Muslim, but only they added the prophet names of some other things. But messenger of covenant, he removed all those garbage. So I agree with that the format.
Thank you.
I think compared to what Brother Douglas said earlier, there's an only additional shahada. Am I right or not? The
In the
difference here.
the traditional
In
have 4.
The traditional, they raise the 3 times. They raise only 1 time. When they say only Allahu Akbar, then they also say like 3 times Allahu Akbar. You know, so they also pray they also say. They read Fatiha. But they read also other things.
when you say 3 times,
In
4
total.
times, 2 times, does that mean raka'ats?
No,
No,
not
no.
rakas, not rakas. Only the standing. You know, if you read the
I
full,
know.
But it's not a
I know,
rak'ah for them.
but
For them,
each
it's a one single event, but it has 4 takbirs. So
Yes,
so they
each
start.
takbir.
So they start.
Each
They start
takbir.
the prayer. They start the prayer with the takbir. After the first takbir, they say the Fatiha. Okay,
Fatiha, yeah.
and then there's a second takbir. After the second takbir, they say the Salawatul Nabi. So they compare Muhammad and Abraham. And then they make another takbir. So that would be a third takbir. And then they make just your own. So now you just like pray to God and you make dua for the dead person, or you make dua for any dead person. And then there's one more takbir, and then they do taslim right away. 1 salam usually on the right, but it depends on the madhab. Some of them do two salams.
So that's like
But it's
4
all.
rak'ats. If we consider each takbir is a rak'at,
But
so that's
here's the
like
thing:
4.
the word rak'ah wouldn't fit here because there is no
Yeah, I
ruku'.
know. We're not doing salat here. I mean, it's just
Can
a
I
set.
can I say
Right,
one
but
thing?
it's one
Sorry.
unit. The whole thing is one
Yeah,
unit.
one
There is
unit,
no
correct.
flip.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. We're just counting as the Fatiha as 1 unit. But hold on a second. If I could just please get everyone to sign up. I just shared the event for next week's Quran Study. We still have another half hour here, but God willing, if you could just take a moment to sign up in VC1-chat or at the top of the events, just click on the Grand Quran Study, tap interested. We have 5 people interested. This is the world's largest Quran study. We're very excited. Praise God for this opportunity. We had almost 70 people on today. Please tell your friends to join, and please support this movement and this information for this event. I see Joy signed up, Yara signed up, Sister Tatiana signed up, Talan, Brother Jerry, Nahim, Sister Fari, Brother Roger. Please sign up. We have 18 people signed up. So that's a new record in terms of how fast people have signed up. Praise God. That's wonderful. Zai. A lot of people signed up. Christy, Alfred. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Brother Elham. God bless you. 20 people signed up just like that. 21. So,
Thank you
and
guys
this
for
event,
hosting me again. I gotta go. Salam alaikum.
God bless you. Thanks
Peace
for
be
your
upon
contribution. Thanks for being here.
you. Take care.
God bless. Peace. I wanted to make another comment about last night's great event. It was a ladies' night. It was held by Sister Hoshi, and she did a great job holding that event. It sounds like that's going to be a monthly event. And also thank you for Brother Elham for helping to organize that event and stimulating that. So this is a women's only event every month in VC6. And if you don't have access to VC6, let me know so I can give you access if you are female. And that's a monthly event. And then we have another event by Sister Samantha. I guess it's a monthly event about raising children. And you can please sign up for these events in the events channel at the top. And then also Sister Fari has Quran study on Saturday afternoons and Sunday afternoon. And those events are also created and they're listed in the events channel. I suggest you sign up for those as well. Did I miss anything? Anyone want to make any community announcements before we continue? Thank you so much. Oh yeah, sorry. There's also another Quran study. Brother Elham has a Quran study hosted on Wednesdays, and that would be about 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And that's also another opportunity to meet more submitters and participate in the interaction discussions on the server. Anyone else have any community discussions to address? Please go ahead.
God willing.
Thank you, Brother
God willing.
Naveed. Yeah, the studies that were mentioned Sunday evening, including tonight, and then Saturdays it's either late afternoon or evening. Thank you. Praise God. You're all invited and welcome. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else have any questions or comments about the verses we read? We read chapter 9, verse 80 through 89. And we could talk about those verses or any other verses in the Quran, or any concepts or topics that need to be addressed or discussed. Does anyone have any topics or issues they want to raise?
Just a last Leslie, on this. I'm looking at the steps of the funeral prayer. Like, what I remember is I don't think those verses are recited in there. Yeah, I mean, perhaps they're given as just examples, but yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I wanted to bring up. So one of the submitters had shared this video by this guy who was saying, you know, about the hijab. I mean, what people call hijab, the dress code. It's actually not hijab, but he made this video saying that somebody contacted him saying in the Quran it doesn't say to cover your head, like based on 24:30, and then he was saying actually the Arabic word for the cover, he was saying one of the meanings of that Arabic word is head covering. So he was saying it is the Arabic kind of connotes or like denote, makes it clear that it is the head covering that then is supposed to be brought onto the chest as well and cover the chest, which doesn't make sense to me. Like if we look at and so this submitter was asking me like what I thought about it, and I have my thoughts, but thought it would be good to get input, especially because there's probably like there may be people who speak Arabic or have a better knowledge of Arabic. So 24, it's actually 24:31 that it says they shall not reveal any parts of their bodies except that which is necessary. They shall cover their chest. So Dr. Khalifa has translated this as they shall cover their chests and shall not relax this code in the presence of other than, and then it goes through categories. So to me, it doesn't make sense. Like any way one cuts it, doesn't make sense to say they should put their head over their chest because the head covering is the head covering.
I think I understand your question. God bless you. I think Peter wants to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, just really quick. The word that they're pulling from is humarihun, right? So this is the 16th word in the verse. So the concept is even if you give them the concede on that, we say okay, it's a head covering, right? The aspect is nowhere does it say cover your head, right? It's literally telling you to take this covering and cover your chest. So to extract and say, oh well, this is insinuating to cover your hair, it's like, well, the verse doesn't say that, right? So even if we go with their interpretation, what it's saying to do with this cover is to cover your chest with it. You know, so that's the first thing. The second thing is, again, it depends on how you define this word. Define it as a head covering, then yeah, that's the argument. But all it means is it just take your cover and cover your chest. So again, there's nothing in the verse, you know, that's signifying covering your hijab. And I'll take it one step further. Show me a single hadith that says that women have to cover their hair. It doesn't exist. right? So it's like these concepts that they're promoting so heavily and stuff. It has no foundation. This is a cultural thing that they did. It's not part of the religion.
Hey, Sister Fari, 2 articles were
Mashallah.
shared with you in the chat. One is from Rashad, and that addresses this topic. Another one's from Peter, and it's really good. And the Arabic expression is بِخُمُورِهِنَّ عَلَى جُيُوبِهِنَّ. Bring covering over their chest. That's what that little Arabic says, word for word. And Rashad addresses the khimar part in his article. I think Brother Amin wants to say something. Go ahead.
Thank you.
So this, I heard also a different argument or similar argument in one of the chat that on our channel, and they say, this used to be men used to wear them too. So if anybody makes that argument that men need to wear the cover as well, that's a self-defeating argument because men aren't wearing the khimars anymore. Then they must not be obeying, because if this was the premise that you should cover your hair before anyways, and now you're not, the men are not doing it, then that defeats the whole purpose. The khimar they say was not limited to women. Men used to wear them. So that basically means the men are not following the dress code anymore, because men's hairs are showing, even in Muslim countries, even if you have a hat on, you can see their hair.
MashaAllah, thank you. Thank you all. So it was cutting in and out for me a little bit, Brother Amin, but I think I caught the gist of what you're saying, that because the men also did it, that to say that if we look at kind of the history and say, okay, the women have to continue to do it, then if it's based on that, then why are the men not doing it?
That's correct.
Okay.
They
Right, so-
associate the covering khimar to both men and women. Some people do, and if they make that argument, it's clear. And I think in one of the videos I've seen, you said the men used to do them as well. So if it was something that everybody had, at some point the men are no longer required to do it, but the women should continue to do it, despite the verse that has nothing to do with the head, and it says covering what. And I think all has come to the concept of Quran alone is not enough for them, so they have to extract other things from the meaning of it, because this may have been the tradition. That's for sure. That people can all look at the picture of old people, they all have their head covered, but this has nothing to do. The religion has nothing to do with the tradition. The same way they mix understanding doing the halal meat, what it means to halal meat. People say you have to do a certain ways. You have to, the zip. You have to do the Islamic. This is a tradition that they used to do. But that has nothing to do with what halal meat is. The definition is in the Quran. So they misunderstand these two things and they mix it up.
Thank you. Thank you also for the sharing the articles. Is it possible to put these in the content sharing so they don't get lost in the VC1 chat? That would be great.
Peace, guys. I just want to couldn't they argue that because himar means head covering, that verse which says put your head covering over your chest, it's saying, yeah, cover your chest, but use your head covering to do it. Like, couldn't one make that argument? Like,
Yeah,
it's telling you how to cover your chest. You have to use the head covering to cover your chest, right?
That the intention is what to cover, because the word hair or head has been mentioned in the Quran multiple places. And so God is not in short of wordage. If the head must remain covered, God would have mentioned it. So this is again concept of Quran being complete. Even if you consider the khimar being the head cover, if the head were to be remain covered, God would have mentioned it. And it is insinuating that this is part of the dress code, which is not. The dress code is saying what to cover is specifically say, because it really doesn't matter what you use to do it. You can use it. You can cover it with various clothing. The area that God is to cover is saying to cover. So it really doesn't matter whether someone can keep their hair covered, but this is not a requirement. This is not a Quranic requirement. This is a tradition. This may be a tradition at best. You can think about it. People doing this based on tradition.
Wait, but couldn't it be argued from the verse itself that God is commanding covering the chest by using the head covering. Like,
That's
the
that's what Peter said. He's saying even if you take it to mean head cover, it's saying put your head cover on your chest.
Right. So it's telling you how to cover your chest by a head cover, not by wearing something else, but by using a head cover.
Well, no, it's saying take the head cover and put it on your chest, but it never says to cover your head.
Right. But like the verse tells you how to cover your chest by using your head covering to cover your chest.
And if you take the word to mean head cover.
Isn't that what Peter said the word means?
No. Peter said it doesn't mean
I'm
that.
saying,
But even
yeah,
if you took it to mean
it's just
that, it wouldn't help their argument.
yeah. So it's just general, right? But if you take it to the specific to say, okay, hey, let's understand this is head covering. It's like, okay, still the verse does not say, like for instance, extend your head covering, right? It says basically, the literal word is darab, which means in essence strike your, let's say, head covering over your bosom, right? So it's like it's telling you to cover your bosom. There's nothing there telling you to cover your hair.
Thank you all, mashallah. That's
Please, can I chime in?
yeah, please.
I don't know if you've heard about another aspect of the hijab as well, that traditionally it was this women of higher class that wear them. So the slave women never used to cover their hair. And this became an issue when the slaves were trying to mimic the women of the higher society. So that's just a proof the fact that women never used to cover their hair. It was used as a status symbol.
That's interesting. When was that, Lisa? Sister Lisa? Are you referring to
I
the
don't
Prophet's time or?
Prophets during, yeah. I don't know if
Cited
Jude
in
might
the,
be able to explain.
yeah, so I have the hadith from this in the article that I linked to.
Do we know like when it may so it's hadith referring back to
Yeah, so
that?
there's a hadith saying Omar basically strike the slave and said, stop, basically take off your head cover and acting like a free woman.
Mm.
Slave women apparently used to walk around the street bare-chested even. I don't know how true this is. But the other aspect is also that women who cover their hair is in the Bible. So the Christians used to cover their hair. So if the hadith is saying that it's compulsory, then we all know that hadith copy the Bible, right? And the Torah. So maybe that's where they got their sources from. Hence why we see the nuns these days are still covering their hair.
Interesting.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you all for sharing. Walaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum. It's my understanding that people who lived in that region, because it was arid, because it was desert, and obviously the constant impact of the sun, men and women covered their heads. It's clear in the historical record, it's clear in pictures and things that men wore head coverings and women and people wore coverings to protect themselves from the sand. So what we have here is a situation more or less in part where people were wearing head covers primarily because of the environment they lived in. And so the wearing of the head covering, you see, was distorted, as we know in the Quran. What it says is clearly it means cover the chest and not the head. People were not wearing head covers for religious reasons. This is what I'm saying. They were wearing head covers to protect themselves from environmental, the heat, the sunlight, the blowing sands. So I'm saying that's that's something that should be included in this equation as well. Also, it would be important to include the fact that wearing a head covering in itself is not forbidden. If a woman individually chooses to wear a scarf or something on her head, that's her business. But certainly not to project this as God's commandment. It certainly is not a command for women to cover their heads. That's not emblematic of submission. And my final comment in terms of this question, I on occasion look at TikTok. Nothing wrong with that if you look at the right material. And one of the things that intrigues me is the number of people who post who are recent quote unquote converts to Islam. And many women who are recently coming into Islam comment about what they describe as a difficulty or challenge in wearing hijab, because they're immediately given the impression that wearing hijab, quote unquote, or head cover is supposed to be some indication of their submission to Allah or practice of Islam, as we all know. And I think that, as we all are aware, it is very important, with God's support and help, that we communicate to people, in particular women, that wearing the head cover is not an obligation, was not a commandment by God. Thank you.
Mashallah, yeah, it's an important issue. Thank you, Brother Douglas and all for sharing. So it seems like because that was interesting about the slave woman. So it seems like that went back to the time of the Prophet and after. Well, I guess the hadiths were it was long after, but essentially around that time. That's what was right. We don't know for sure if that's what was happening at the Prophet's time, right?
I can say safe. It's like, look, at best, the hadith is a documentation of what they thought at the time of compilation, right? So you're talking about hundreds of years later. But the point is to show that
Right.
even in their own literature, right, this concept that it's mandatory for women to cover their hair, it's not in their own literature. This is something that, again, it's a cultural aspect. I have not seen a hadith the thing is, I'm not going to say it can't exist, but it's not in their canonized compilations where there's a mandate that women must cover their hair, right? If this was so essential, you'd say, okay, where is it, right? This is, again, it's one of these things that for whatever reason, because they just want to, force this understanding that we have to all go back to 7th century Arabia. The justification's like, well, if they did it back then, we have to do it now. It's like, okay, well, they didn't use spoons and forks either, right? It's just like the whole argument is just kind of silly, and it's honestly it's just a means of oppressing a group of people, putting them behind veils, and confining them to the public.
Yeah. And so let me see if I understood regarding the Arabic word, because I think it's like the whole argument of this guy was based on this Arabic word. So this qamara, right? Qamaran?
Khamar.
Qamar.
Khamar, so it occurs only like a handful of times in the Quran. Every other time's in the context of wine intoxicants, right? And basically in this verse, it's using in the basically as the concept of a covering. So it's the same thing as intoxicants. That's the origin of it.
Right. And depending on the context, the meaning changes. So in this, it sounds like it's true that one of the meanings of this is head covering, but it also means cover in general. Is that right? Like it means cover in general, but specifically it can mean, like, is there something about it that makes it specific that if it's the cover, I guess it could be any kind of cover.
There is it's not unwarranted to say that this is in the context of a head covering, right? It's not that this is coming out of nowhere, but again, the verse, nowhere in the verse does it say that women have to cover their hair. So even if we concede that point, we say, okay, we're going to go with the more specific interpretation that this is a head covering, right? The verse doesn't say cover your hair, right? The only requirement in the verse is to cover your bosom. So,
Right.
you know, to extrapolate and say, oh, well, that's means that we also have to cover your hair. It's like, okay, well, we can say definitively that's not what the verse says, right? That's an
Right.
extrapolation that's being made.
Right. And the word
Sister
just
Fari,
means
have you
cover.
read the article from Rashad? I sent it to you in a direct message.
Thank you. I haven't read it at this point, but I was just trying to understand like the key thing that this guy's argument rides on. And the Arabic word also just means cover, right? So it could be any kind of cover.
Yeah, I
Like
mean, you
that's the
can
general
use
meaning.
like I mentioned, it's not unwarranted. Amin brought up this point too, right? You'll see khamer in the reference to a head cover, both for men and women. You know, it's kind of an article of clothing. I mean, there's other articles of clothing mentioned in the Quran, but again, to me, this is more relevant to time and place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the concept is not this aspect of, hey, you know, everyone must wear a head cover. Right? That would be an extrapolation from the text that's, you know,
Mm-hmm.
not being stated.
Right. Right. Okay. Thank you.
Dude, can I ask you something? Are you aware that there is also another hadith that said Prophet Muhammad approaching the mosque for salat, and then there were women already waiting inside, and when they announced that the Prophet was arriving, and the women quickly put their head cover on. So there's two ways of looking at it. I mean, the way for our benefit, we can always defend by saying that, you know, women weren't covering their hair in the first place, so they were putting the head cover on as part of their clothing, as a mark of respect for when the Prophet walked in. I mean, if hair was a commandment to be covered, then they would have been covered all the time. There was no option to have the scarf down. What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not familiar with that, but I'm not doubting that. Let's say at that time in that place, kind of like the comments made before, that you know women dressed a certain way. Um, you know, I agree with you in that aspect that okay, is this a religious commandment versus hey, is this a cultural thing? Because there's a lot of aspects in the Quran that have to do with specific culture, but it's the grander lesson that we need to extract from, right? Um, so that to me, like the same thing with this. It's look, we're not concerned with exactly what their style of dress is. We're concerned with what God is telling them that hey, cover their chest.
Salam alaikum. I'd like to ask for some clarification regarding the distinction between khamr in terms of intoxicants and gambling and the concept of covering the head. Khamr doesn't, when it comes to intoxicants and gambling, that doesn't literally mean covering the physical head. It means a covering of the mind. You know, intoxicants distort one's perceptions and their way of thinking, their mind. They cannot focus, their minds are not clear. So we're not talking about identical situations here when people attempt to try to use the word khamr as equivalent to covering the head, as in women covering the head. When we're speaking of intoxicants and gambling, we're talking about clouding the mind, or as you know, intoxication. And that's not equivalent to covering the physical head. Thank you.
Salam alaikum. Yes, so mashallah, all the comments were beautiful said. Also, the dress code, first, the commandment is given to believing men to subdue their eyes, and then to believing women. So and we see that they put that burden on all the women covering from head to toe, so the man won't be tempted. And there is also another verse that God says, "Those who overcome their lust will enter heaven, not by forcing women to cover their head to toe." And another verse that God says, "There is no compulsion in religion." So the religion cannot be forced. Even among those who believe, we cannot force them to dress. It takes time for people to grow in the righteousness, and it's their own decision. And righteousness, God says, I'm trying to remember that verse, that it's righteousness is not what actually we wear, is I mean that follows the righteousness of mind and heart. So people need to first choose to be believer, then grow in righteousness, and then choose to wear modest. There is no force in that. In Quran, there is no room to force for someone to be believer, to force somebody to even dress modestly. We can advocate righteousness for believer. It doesn't follow force. It's just a reminder. And the person needs to go in righteousness first.
Yes, mashallah. Thank you. If may I jump in, I would like to go back and reply Sister Lisa. I have some points to share about the funeral prayer, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please do.
So, yeah, inshallah. So I was thinking, remember when Joseph's brothers, when they went to Joseph, they bowed down in front of him, and Messenger of the Covenant clarified that they were bowing down. God, your understanding should be that when they bowed down in front of Joseph, they were thanking God. They are not really doing it for Joseph. So this was clarified for us by the Messenger of Covenant. So I'm still studying about this subject, but I was just thinking, wanted to share this point. At the video which I shared, Rashad is talking about the funeral prayer about his mother. Right at the end, when the video is ending, he said, "We'll do the funeral, 2 rakas funeral prayer." He's using the word rakas. He didn't say 2 al-Fatihas, he said rakas. However, my personal belief is that till now is that, in the funeral prayer, there is no bowing and prostrating. But how could it be that people maybe perform the 2 rakas praying to God, not for the deceased, but they're doing 2 rakas for God, similar like the story of Joseph's brothers? Because if you listen to it carefully, Rashad is saying 2 rakas right at the end of the video where it's ending. This is what I was going to share. But inshallah, I'm going to study for it, and we pray to Allah to increase our knowledge.
Inshallah. My response to that is, it is called funeral prayer. But Rashad clarified that it's not actual prayer as in contact prayers, it's a supplication. So it's more of a dua rather than a salat. The thing
but it's called Salat al-Janaza.
Yeah, that term comes from Sunni. It's not, Rashad never called that.
That's not in the Quran?
Yeah, I know. I'm just, even the Ghaib thing is not even in the Quran. It kind of like, I was trying to highlight that there is some superimpose here. Something that Sunni does and something that, in the video. So if it is a supplication, why is it called rak'ats, and why are we giving salam, and why is it performed like a contact prayer? We're standing in line facing the casket, and it's facing the Kaaba, the Qibla. As far as we know, doing supplication, we can be in any position. It doesn't have to be in that standing position. Even though we don't do the bowing and the prostrating, we're kind of like, standing in a saf, aren't we? Why is it in that manner, like a salat? And if we are not bowing and prostrating or doing the funeral prayer to the dead, we're doing it for God. But God said, do not perform funeral prayer for them. He didn't say, do not perform funeral prayer for me or to me. I don't know, there's a slight, the concept is slightly, ambiguous for me. If you
Mashallah.
can clarify that.
Thank you.
May-
Just
may-
the
may I-
question was the why Rashad referring to rakas. Yeah, please go ahead, brother.
No, honestly, I'll wait.
Yeah, that was the same question I had, that Rashad is mentioning two rakas. He didn't say two al-fatihas, or if you listen at the end of that video. So anyway, he's not here to clarify for us. We can only rely to Allah to guide us to correct understanding, inshallah.
And we say salam as well, right? At the end of it. I mean, we don't say salam at the end of the dua. Or we say alhamdulillah, or may God accept. We don't say salam alaikum to the left and to the right. So this is very, very salat style of dua.
I don't know if us understanding if it is or not will affect us in any way, but the numerical counts of our salat are exact. The total for a day, total for a week, they are specific, and I think that since the connection is numerically, I don't know.
Then that
put
makes
together.
the funeral prayer even not for God. That is definitely not for God then, because if it's numerically comply, then it is for God.
For God? Well, I mean, I don't know what you mean by for God, but when I think of salat, I think of it as this is making contact with God. There is a mystical thing that we do not understand that happens because of the movements and the utterances that we make, and that causes contact. Now, we can do meditation and do dhikr Allah, and that's a great way of getting close to God as well. It's a different thing. And this to me is just, I don't know what the right word to call it is, but it seems to me that it's for us, it's an individual dua. We do it collectively as a community. It's as you do dhikr in a community together. It's got a format you're facing, but it doesn't seem to be salat. I don't know, but that's just how I see it.
Yeah, so Jeff, I just want to say this for Lisa. The word is salat in the verse. It's not dua.
Right, Rashad said it's supplication.
I understand because it's not the salat. It's not the contact prayer, but it is identified on that terminology. So I don't think salat al janazah is wrong because the word salat is used for it.
Do you think
what I see in the Arabic for this is it says tasalli for you pray.
Right.
It's tasalli.
That's the verb. Yeah, that's the verb of salat.
I mean,
that's just the verb form of the word.
Right. I want to.
And salam means connection. Definitely, we know we cannot connect to the dead, right? But we can establish contact with God.
Yeah, I mean, it's all I can say from my perspective is it's just Ali and it's translated as praying. I wanted to just so my understanding of the funeral prayer is that it's just a right that God has given us. It's not obligatory, but it's something that we can do as a community, as a as a right to kind of. My understanding is that it just kind of can help facilitate like the healing and the closure, and it's for the people that are left, because we know when somebody's departed, their fate is sealed. I wanted to just thank everyone for their input on the question regarding
Okay.
the dress code. And I wanted to, Masha, the article that was sent, I think really clarified that I think this was written by Dr. Khalifa, right? The one that you sent, Naveed, Brother Naveed, about the woman's
Yes,
hair.
that's correct. The original one I sent is written by Dr. Khalifa. And I wanted to say, it doesn't say don't pray for them. It says don't perform the funeral prayer, the funeral prayer. It's talking about specific things, right?
I'm talking about the article about the hair. That was written by Dr.
Oh,
Khalifa.
okay. No, I just wanted to finish on the previous point. It's not about not praying for them. It says don't perform the funeral prayer for them. So the funeral prayer is a specific thing, and saying don't do that for them. Separately, it says don't stand in their grace. Regarding the hair article, yeah, what's your question about that?
No, I just wanted to say, mashallah, it's, and I appreciate everyone's input, mashallah. I think it was great input by everyone. And this also really is helpful that it says khamar, which simply means cover, any kind of cover over anything, like khamr or intoxicants, for example, cover the mind. So it's, so it's cover, and they're taking it to be a specific kind of cover, that's their kind of, but it's cover. So it makes sense that God is saying cover the chest. So praise God. And that's what I thought, but it was just helpful to be able to get deeper into it because it came up. Thanks. Thank you, and may God bless you all.
Yeah, I have a comment actually. Our religion is not very hard. It's very simple. But if we don't try to understand deeply, if we don't have the sincere heart, so obviously it will be difficult and more difficult. It's not that very hard, about the salat. And Messenger, he already translated as a salat funeral prayer in the Quran. So it's a prayer. It's not the regular salat. So there is some format is way from long time. So it's preserved. The way is we have to do. So, but if you are digging, why this one, why that one, it's not going to end forever.
Sarji,
So, we have to
sorry to interrupt you.
Inshallah, we have to ask from God. So God will guide.
Okay, Ji, sorry to interrupt you. So which format is preserved? I don't want to. That's what I'm saying. You're saying format is preserved. Which format? Because in the video we see.
Yeah,
in the video we see Rashad saying 2 rakat. 1 second. In the video, Rashad clearly saying 2 rakat. In this file you share, who shared? Sister Lisa shared from submission.org. It's one, the format is different, you see. So you are saying the format is preserved. I will be very happy, inshallah, to follow it, but we see multiple formats. However, I think, inshallah, when at the right time, we are not in that situation now, but inshallah, Allah will guide us. At the moment, my understanding is just 2 al-Fatihas, but we can study further, inshallah.
Yeah, it's not the 4 rakat. If you raise the say 4 times Allah Akbar, it's not the 4 rakat. Rakat you have to have a prostration, ruku, sujud, so what we call. So without this one, it cannot be a raka. So it's not like that. You say Allah Akbar, couple of times. It's a format, the way it's a funeral prayer. So if you listen carefully the other videos of the Rashad Khalifa, so I think you got a point, So, and also I remember when his mother funeral prayer was done in I think the Egypt. One of the believer paid for his mother prayer in Egypt, something like that. So he was the only one believer in that time. So God, So So obviously he prayed the funeral prayer as prayed the traditional Muslim, the same format. So yeah. So but this is up to you guys. So I believe the way the submission.org mentioned. So it's messing with the the preserved funeral prayer. So I agree with them. That's my understanding.
But brother, you are contradicting yourself because submission.org, let's say it's preserved, the traditional one is preserved. Yeah. So Rashad would have also do the traditional one. He removed the idol worshiping part. But it is different, you see. If you read that, which is posted, and what he said in the video is different. Anyway, inshallah, we can move on. Thanks for sharing the input.
Yes,
Salam.
yes. This is up to you. Yeah, this is up to you. So you have to do more research. What it will. So what will be the format? So you have to do 2 rakan now. So I don't know why. Yeah. So I have to. Yeah. If you do more research, I think this is the salat format for the funeral prayer.
Yeah, let's
Can
hear
I-
what Sister Bliss has to say. Go ahead, Sister Bliss. Peace be upon you.
Peace be upon you. I want to read 726. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. O children of Adam, we have provided you with garments to cover your bodies, as well as for luxury, but the best garment is the garment of righteousness. These are some of God's signs that you may take heed. So this garment or dressing modesty, we can advocate it, but it's not to be forced. And it's definitely, the religion is not to be forced, because God, that's a big sin by itself, to force religion, because God says there is no compulsion in religion. And then the righteousness comes, the person should grow in righteousness, and then they don't want to show their chest or wear showy clothes. So there is no force. God doesn't allow for any force. In fact, God says oppression is worse than murder.
Mashallah, I think that's great. Exactly. That people, like, faith is that personal relationship with God, and as people develop that and grow, then they will choose to embrace God's commandments and system more and more. Brother Navi, I was just wondering what the source of that article is, just so I kind of know in case I share it and whatnot. About the woman's hair that you said was written by Dr. Khalifa. Is that
From the
from
submitter's perspective.
Okay. Do you know which one?
Someone would have to look it up. I'm sorry. We can look it up in the chat. We have a search function, but if someone can look that up, I appreciate it. But that's the actual screenshot. You can copy that screenshot and share it, but for sure it's in submitter's perspective.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
I just want to. I'm heading out in the next few minutes. So peace. Thank God for this. Peace be upon you all. May God bless you all.
Sorry, might I say hi, Sister Frey. Did you find out whose opinion was it? Because it matters.
This article, The Woman's Hair, Brother Navid shared that it's written by Dr. Khalifa, and it's from a submitter's perspective. Brother Navid, you said we can search that. How, if you can elaborate on that, that would be helpful, so we know.
Yeah, Brother Sajjad, can you help with that, or someone else?
Which article? Sorry, where is it?
What Brother Navid posted, the article that it starts with the woman's hair up to their eyebrows in idolatry, but worry about the woman's hair.
Oh, that's a submitter's perspective. I'll have to dig that up. I don't know where that is.
Oh, there's no evidence on that.
No,
Thank
there
you.
is evidence. I just have to find it. It takes
Could
a
you
while.
please put in the chat? God bless you.
Yeah, praise God. Does anyone
Sajjad,
know
it's
which
pinned and
year
ask
which
questions.
month?
It's pinned and ask questions.
Okay, ask questions. Okay. Give me a second, you guys.
Thank you. God bless you.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I think Brother Jeff was going to make a comment. I was just wrapping up mine. So.
All right, I got it. I'm putting it in the chat. VC1 dash chat for you guys. Here we go.
And how did you search and find that? Mashallah, quickly.
So you have some of these materials pinned in different channels. It's a little bit disorganized, unfortunately, but this specific one is pinned in the Ask Questions channel. So you would have to go on Ask Questions, go on Pin Messages, and try to find it.
Or simpler, just go to Masjid Tucson. Just go to Masjid Tucson, go to their submitter go to their where it has submitters perspectives, there's a search up there, word search. Do a word search that's similar, and you might find it.
Oh yeah, I got it. This is so good. Thanks for letting me know. This is such a lifesaver. Because what I used to do, I would have to go through the submit perspectives and try to find it.
Yeah, I figure there's got to be a good way. So, Brother Sajjad, thank you, and God bless you, Brother Jeff, as well. What you posted was what Brother Navi posted, but I was wondering which submitter's perspective it came from. But yeah, maybe that's the way to find it is on the Master Tucson website. We can see if that works. Thanks.
I wanted to make a comment about it seems there. Sorry.
We just wanted to learn. I apologize. I would just continue.
Oh, you wanted to continue on? Okay.
No, that's fine. It's ended. I think Ferry's finished, and I was just ended it. Thank you. Sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. The truth always prevails.
And by the way, it's June 1987, by God's grace, on that, mashallah, what Jeff shared. Like going to the submitter's perspective page on Master Tucson, and then one can search. So I searched the woman's hair, I think, and that came up. Thanks.
Mashallah. I was going to bring something up kind of about, you kind of see this issue come up on a lot of different topics. It just kind of came up with funeral prayer. And it's these situations where we need to make an assessment and a judgment, so to speak. Like, wow, is this person a disbeliever or not? You know, I kind of need to figure that out. Am I covering enough? I kind of need to figure that out. These go across the spectrum. You know, you see David when he was making a clear assessment of a situation in his community. It was deeper than what meets the eye. You know, he struggled over it, thinking about it, trying to look deep into it. It's that these things, you know, a lot of times it seems that the easiest answer or the best answer is to be more restrictive. So if somebody says, how much to cover? Well, you better cover as much as you can. And that's more righteous. Or, gosh, I don't know if he was a hypocrite or a believer. Well, you better just assume he's a hypocrite. That's safer. These kinds of assessments. And I'm pointing out, would you like me to be able to finish mine, or would you like to make my
No,
comment for me?
absolutely. After you, for sure. Thank you. God bless
No,
you.
go ahead and make your comment. You felt the need to stop, so go ahead. Go ahead, Brett. Go ahead, sister.
No, I'm so sorry. I just broke your chain of thoughts. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, I mean, but go ahead. I mean, you already did. So just point out the point that you're disagreeing on, because I don't even think you know what my point is, frankly, because I'm barely developing it yet.
Yeah.
I'm talking about something deeply, huh?
Yeah, I apologize.
No, okay.
You're right.
I'm trying to. I'm sitting here. I'm not trying to talk about hair covering. I'm not trying to talk about deciding whether somebody's a disbeliever or believer. I'm talking about the process behind that. I just brought up those as silly examples. You may disagree with my example. I don't care. I'm talking about a deeper concept, the concept of when we have to make assessments, and it happens all the time. We have to make assessments, and it's not easy. Why? And the reason, and I believe this is by God's design. You see how, for example, in 434, that, you know, the third option for a man is you beat your wife. However, you see that somebody well-founded in knowledge like Dr. Khalifa, he comes to the conclusion that it's prohibited. Huh? What does that mean? How's it prohibited? And what we see there is an example of somebody making an assessment of a situation. And as Dr. Khalifa showed, he applied the Quran, the whole Quran, and nothing but the Quran. And it wasn't safer, well, I'll just be safer, I'll just obey what the Quran says. I should just go ahead and beat her if she didn't do these ones. I'm not talking about beating right now. I'm talking about making assessments. The covering, hair covering, oh, you better, or cover your body, or just cover more, you're better. You know, how, you know, that may feel restrictive to generations or cultures of people. You don't know how much. This is the thing. The point I'm trying to get at is that harsher is not safer. In the case of judging whether somebody's a disbeliever, making a harsh assessment, oh, well, the guy, I think that one's disbeliever, I'm not going to go to their funeral prayer. Well, there's two sides of the coin. There's something really bad about repelling people. If you make wrong assessments, you may repel people. Your behavior may end up being an act of repellent. And so what I'm saying is these deep decisions, we have to understand, like, for example, God says you have to be benevolent. You know, he loves good doers. All of these things have to be applied, and monitor how you're doing it. And being harsher or being more strict in your assessment, my point is not safer. It's being more, using the whole Quran and understanding all the concepts of the Quran to apply to your assessment. I think that's critical, and you'll be judged accordingly. And that's why these things aren't cut and dry for us, I believe, in the Quran. That God leaves it, that it will expose us in how sensitive, how deeply we look at these things, and how we apply the judgment. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Can I go after you? Excellent. God bless you. Well said. But I want to just, if I can add a few more words to that, is that belief. Problem with that. The more belief that I have, yeah. Now you have to have a haircut. Okay. Now you have it to have this side. Okay. Now you have it to have this side. Okay. I mean, isn't it that enough that the art and music and all of that to enjoy, that I have to think about what I'm wearing? I think it really adds to my who I am. Go and listen to the nice music, talk to the people like you, and I am worried about what I wear. I believe my whole head to the toe should be covered. That's okay. Please be peace with it. Respect me. Love. It with you. You just know because I dress like that. And we share our beliefs. We'll learn from one another, become better people, better world. Why are we fighting for our beliefs? Yeah. What is ego? Let's kill it. Thank you.
MashaAllah, I think that was a really good reminder about benevolence, being benevolent and good doers. God bless you. That's a beautiful reminder. I'm going to pull up the verse that 5:13. It says, it was a consequence of their violating the covenant that we condemned them, and we caused their hearts to become hardened. Consequently, they took the words out of context and disregarded some of the commandments given to them. You will continue to witness betrayal from them, excepting a few of them. You shall pardon them and disregard them. God loves those who are benevolent. So the point that I was really after is just highlighting that idea. A first reminder to myself that, we want to be, of course, we want to be among people that God loves, and And a part of that is being benevolent. And so even in this, kind of extreme example that's given, that God is saying that, these people were betraying them to that point. Like God is saying, shall pardon them and disregard them. And basically that's the way that they're being benevolent in this situation. And that's what the benevolence looks like in this situation. And yeah, again, I was after the concept, and this is one example that's given here. Thanks. Yeah, and with that, yeah, please go ahead.
Just share something really quick. So it's funny. I'm just looking through the Hadith corpus just to see if there's anything I missed regarding Khamar, and stumbled on this, and it's worth showing like how they twist the language. These are two Hadith from Bukhari. If you read the translation, it says that after this verse 24:31 was revealed, that the women took their aprons and covered their heads and faces with it. But if you read the actual Arabic, the words heads and faces does not exist. I put the actual translation. It says they tore their aprons and covered themselves with it. The first hadith, and the second one says they took their waist sheets, tore them from the edges, and covered themselves with it. So again, nothing in here is indicating that this is actually something like, because the understanding that the traditionalists say, they say that what happened is when this revelation came, that the women basically extended their head coverings to cover their chest. But what it's showing here, right, it's actually counter to that. It's saying, no, they took their aprons, they tore off pieces of it, and they covered their chest with it. So if this was understood that, no, it's just their extension of their head garment, this contradicts that understanding. But then secondly, the fact that they have to deliberately twist the translation of their own hadith to extract this meaning that doesn't exist.
That's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, these are just kind of additional things that show, that reveal the truth, that, when we look at the hadith, that there's no support, no real support in the hadith for the head being covered. So both kind of based on the hadith that can kind of give us information about like the historical aspect and societal aspect.
It's not even for the historical, it's to show, even using their own sources, it doesn't say what they claim it says, right? That's the main thing. I put zero credibility on any of these narrations, but it's just to go show how much they have to stretch to try to say that, oh, this was always the case, this is part of the religion. It's like, no, even their own sources are showing that their narrative is off, and they do this on so many fronts. So many of their understandings, even in their own literature, doesn't provide support for it. But it's just that aspect that it's like they really don't care kind of what the reality is. They have a certain doctrine, they have a certain like a scholarly class, and they will fight tooth and nail to stick to whatever it is they say, irrespective of even what their own corpus states.
Thank you. God bless you, Brother Dude, and God bless you all. Peace be upon you all. I'm going to head out.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions or topics maybe they want to discuss with us? Anything?
I'd like to talk about the belief. Continue our conversation.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So, question is, why should even have a belief? Believe. Yes. If you don't think God exists and God is real, you're a disbeliever. A couple of days ago. a believer and you believe God exists, believe. Really? It was it's on it. I'll bring it up. It says, "Do you really believe God exists?" Maybe second question is God a belief? Really?
Did you finish, sister?
Sorry, I think I asked wrong questions. Sorry.
No. Did you finish? Because my phone was
Yeah,
going in and
yeah,
out. Oh, okay.
yeah.
You know, actually, let's have a conversation about this a little bit, okay? Because I've heard you bring this up before, and I think that you're talking about a certain point, and it might be quite interesting. So it seems that you're saying that there's something about holding on to a belief, and maybe you're implying that by focusing on belief and right doctrine and things like that, there's an
I said
aspect
belief
of
is the ego. No, I said belief is the ego.
Belief. Belief is the
Ego.
ego.
Yes, because it's all demanding, wanting. Oh, my belief is the most important than even my neighbor, even my parents. Even Laurent said no, but my belief could be bigger than that. He can override Laurent. Oh my God! I mean, God forget it. I question God all the time. So beliefs are, to my opinion, is the ego. Thank you.
Okay, let me talk on that for a little bit, just for a second, because I think I understand. Okay, so interesting. Is belief the ego? That's okay. Maybe, and I see your point actually. There's a point of like our ego is invested in our belief, statements. We do that. It may not be identical, but let me ask you. Okay, rather than the word belief, when we ask you what's the worldview, or give me a term that is appropriate to use, that it isn't ego, but it represents that you are aligned such that you can make it to heaven. What word would you give that? So let's throw out belief, because it seems like there's so much ego attachment to that. Give us an alternative.
So first of all, the question is heaven. You say the word heaven, I'm going to ask you, who wants to go to heaven? Who's going to heaven?
All right,
Me.
let me back
And I'm
off
like,
that.
okay, that's belief. I is the belief. You're not going to go to heaven. You only going to pay for the actions. Be careful. Eye for an eye. It's all on. Watch in front of you. Don't fall in the hole. Don't hurt anybody, because they will be eye for an eye, hurt you. So stop hurting each other. Start loving one another. Care for each other, because that's how you feel.
MashaAllah. So let me.
It's the consequences of our actions. It's not somewhere.
No, but can I ask you? Honestly, I want to have a dialogue here. No, honestly, I because so honestly, I was just trying to ask a question, and when I asked the question, we got hung up on another term, and so that was heaven. So I was asking a question. I was trying to look for a word other than our beliefs, because I agree, our ego attachment to the belief. So but I all of a sudden threw in this objective that our goal is to make it to heaven. So let me back off from that one. Let me ask you this, just before I go back to my previous question. What is the goal? here for people?
You're thinking.
What?
You what are you thinking? Who? What? That moment that you're asking that question, you're thinking. Thinking. If I'm not here, you're thinking with yourself. You're gonna, oh, I wonder, da la la. I rather you be thinking about God. I rather think about God rather than other people. But every time I think about like somebody, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna kill them. Everybody has done something bad to me. so then, therefore, you think about God. But why?
So okay. So are you? Maybe you're saying to me this. Look, just focus on your own neck and have God in your what. Don't worry about the outcome. Don't worry about this or that. You would say to me, just are you thinking about God? That's the question here. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yes. No, I'm not questioning. I know you are.
No. I know. I just mean, listen. You have a interesting way to express things, and I think sometimes it's overlooked. It's overlooked. Sister, please just give me a second. I think you have an interesting way to express things. I think you have an interesting perspective, and I think it can easily be overlooked because it's hard to understand what you're saying. And so that's why I'm pushing in deeper. That's all. I'm just saying, I'm saying, look, I respect that you have some depth, that you're coming from somewhere. I'm saying to you, it's hard to see it. So back to the original question, when you're saying the us so invested in our beliefs, you would say, are you thinking about God in that, or are you thinking about your ego? You might say that. You would say, if I'm focused on if I can get to heaven or not, you're saying, don't worry about the I so much. Think about God more. Something like that. It seems like that's the kind of thing you're saying. Is that right?
No, I'm just saying, what even happened? Why even think about God? God is not a thinking process. We don't think about God. God just is. I'm thinking, how are you, God? And he says, how? I mean, I'm just saying, think like this is better than nothing. You know, I'm thinking about God because I don't want to be thinking about things that makes me feel bad. To be honest with you, thinking about God makes me feel good. So therefore, I think about God. I'm talking to you. I'm thinking about God. So that's not bad. It's a good thing.
God awareness.
Nice.
Yeah, it does seem like that she's pointing to an understanding that existence, God is existence or something, that God is, and thinking isn't actually experiencing. That's what it seems, something like that, that there's, and this goes to a deeper aspect of submission, this idea of experiencing the condition of the soul, that we are a soul. And what is a soul? It's a piece of God. And this idea that you can experience that as a submitter, you can experience the feeling of you as a soul. People do that when they leave their body. This happens. It's a real thing. It happens in people's sleep. It happens in near-death experiences, these things. And it happens in deep meditation and dhikr for people. Dr. Khalifa talked about this even too. That is a thing, experiencing the soul. Is that the point? That's the question. Is the point experiencing that feeling of the soul? I don't know. Personally, I think that's helpful. It's like it helps you to believe, oh my goodness, I'm not my body. I'm a soul, and there's another thing going on outside of me. That's a good thing to understand. But is it the point? The point is it. My question is I'll stop here. Is that the point? And I would say, no, that's only a small fraction of the picture. The point is the keeping your thoughts on God. And I'll lay it at that.
Awesome. Well said.
Yeah.
Can I add? Sorry, I have it over here. So God tells us when you accept the message, call yourself submitter, and when it sits in your heart and becomes your second nature, you get to certainty, call yourself believer. So it does start from us, just verbally, we accept the message, or in our thoughts, or saying it, and this repetition that, then as go and inshallah become more and more righteous, then it sits deeper in our heart. And Jeff, I'm also interested to know about that meditation article that you just mentioned.
Can anyone me? Is there somebody talking? I don't hear anything.
No, it's quiet.
All right, please keep on you. Let's see if someone else has any comments for us. All right, please go ahead.
Salam alaikum. Sister, did you get your answer?
Jeff, no, I didn't. You mentioned that there is an article about meditation connecting to soul, and I'm interested in that.
Yeah, it's more than, it's not just article. It's like in, I think, maybe 3 or 4 different audios, Quran studies, messenger audio, and yeah, I'll start at that.
So what does Messenger said about connecting to soul?
Yes. Oh, yeah. First of all, there's a beautiful explanation of this condition in his dhikr Allah for Night of Power. I think it's Quran study number 13 or 14, one of those. And he talks about this focusing, leaving the body, going to God. But then he talks about more specifically about this idea that anybody can leave the body and have an out-of-body experience. He said if you concentrate, and he said he used to practice this, do this, and he said one time he left his body and he went through the floor above him, And he was saying it's a matter of, there's a way of doing it. And I've looked into this also. It's not that I'm interested in it. I just want to understand what it's not even a big deal. People do this all the time. And that's what he was talking about, that not even, and it used to confuse me because I used to think this had to do with spirituality, that, oh my goodness, these yogis and Hindu people, they're blessed because they have these astral experiences, out of body experiences. And I realized that, oh my goodness, they're just doing something that we can do. We can experience our soul. We can experience the idea of being out of the body. And Dr. Khalifa, in another audio, he said, if you concentrate hard enough, and he was doing it in the messenger audio when he was talking about the direction of the prayer, was using the point that, look, your soul actually can go through the earth when you can go to the Kaaba. He said that. He said, because the material is nothing. And he said literally this, that if you focus hard enough, you literally can go to the Kaaba, this kind of a thing. And so there's another piece of the piece of the puzzle that he's talking about there. And like I was saying, I lost my train of thought, but those are some of the components of it. Like, you know, it's interesting. If you talk with people who do like the Advaita Vedanta people, the non-dualist, that kind of thing, those people who are trying to not focus on themselves, you just feel God, the presence, just be in the awareness, the lack of identity, these kinds of things, they seem to be synonymous with achieving this experience of leaving out of the body and getting it. It seems to be some of the same stuff. And that's what Dr. Khalifa is saying, that anybody can do that kind of a thing. And I think, I personally, this is my personal belief, I think a lot of people confuse that ability with what we're supposed to be doing here. That yes, you can experience that. And so people want to be enlightened. In other words, they want to be in that state where they have that sense of mind that they're not their person, they're part of a bigger, they want to have that feeling all the time, and they see that as the point to life, to achieve enlightenment. And they see that that's that from the Eastern perspective, they understand that that's the way to escape samsara, which is the continual rebirth here. In other words, hell. You want to escape this hell here, you have to do it by becoming aware of becoming aware of the soul state and be conscious of that, having that mindset. Well, of course, we see that, yes, that's a part of awareness. However, it's not the point. We see that we sinned. We're looking for forgiveness. We must provide a record of focusing on God all the time. All of these things, it completes the picture. So it's not a competing type of understanding of the world and what's happening here. The Eastern view, they have, in my view, a piece of what's going on. And we see how super advanced and fantastically perfect our religion is that we have, because it gets right to the point of soul growth, that it's about your providing the record and thinking of God, having God, knowing God's doing everything in this aspect. And you can do the other stuff as well, the awareness, the connecting, leaving the body in terms of focusing so much, going to God, but it's to God, to God, to God, to God, this aspect. Thank you. Boy, I went on forever, but thank you.
May I ask a question, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. So basically, thinking about God, we think about God that help us, support us, give us everything that can give us, brings us peace. You agree with that?
Sure,
Okay.
there's
Yes, I agree. But really, that's not God.
why
God
not?
is the one who actually give it to me, who
Yeah.
actually give me peace. It could actually be
Mm-hmm.
consequences of my actions that he involves. But he's not just in my thinking. That's what I'm trying to get across. There is a big difference between I'm thinking about God. Oh, God is kind. God is giving. God is this. I'm thinking about God, but God is not my thinking. It's not your thinking. God is real. Is here. Is right now. Is the ability that me and you talking. Is a blessing. I even exist, and you even exist, and I'm learning from you. This is not me. And it's Gita. Gita with her ego probably thinks it's on me. Thank you.
Mashallah, Gita, honestly, the way I see what you're saying is it's literally the difference between a submitter and a believer. And I think that, like, for example, as a submitter, maybe we are in the thinking stage so much, we want to believe. We want to get to the point where there's no doubt whatsoever. It is a state of mind. It's a consciousness. You recognize, oh my goodness, God is doing everything. I'm doing nothing. God, I believe it is a state of enlightenment. I do believe that state is nirvana, that what is talked about. I do believe that myself. And so I like how you make these distinctions, because I honestly do think it's the difference between the submitter and the believer. And may God bring us to being believers. Mashallah.
Thank you. So now the question is, how are we going to get there? I think more about heaven, like this place I'm going to go. The only reason I think about that, because I don't want to think about the place that I don't want to go, the hell, So that's what I keep thinking about heaven. But one day I was thinking, you know what, Gita, why are you? Because then I'm struggling, my instinct's like, you're going to go to hell. No, I'm going to go to heaven. Like, I don't have any peace by thinking about hell and heaven. And then I'm like, what gets me there? I'm like, my actions. The consequences of my actions give me the result. It's not just sitting here and thinking about it. Oh, I want to go to heaven. No, go to hell. No, heaven. My consequences. So that brought me to the present moment to be careful for what you say, what you do. Give your zakat, do all the things that Sharia laws tell you to do. So then you can come to peace, and bring peace to everybody in the world. God bless you guys. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, I want to add to this. I think, Gita, you didn't mean to do the Sharia laws, right? Because Sharia laws has little to do with Quran. So I just
I'm so sorry. I don't know what it is. I thought it part is a law from Quran. Somebody told me that.
It
I
is
am
not.
so sorry. Okay, then that's another lesson, another day, or you can teach me today. Doesn't matter.
That's the whole debate that is going on in Discord. Yeah, mashallah. So I want to read a couple verses. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Chapter 8, verse 17. God is doing everything. It was not you who killed them. God is the one who killed them. It was not you who threw. When you threw, God is the one who threw. But He does gives the believers a chance to earn a lot of credit. God is here, omniscient. And then chapter 10, verse 61, knowing God. You do not get into any situation, nor do you recite any Quran, nor do you do anything without us being witnesses thereof as you do it. Not even an atom's weight is out of your Lord's control, be it in the heavens or the earth, nor is there anything smaller than an atom or larger that is not recorded in a profound record. And there are other verses too. And then there is a footnote for 817 that Messenger explains believing in God necessitates believing in his qualities, one of which is that he is doing everything. Without knowing God, there is no belief. And then bad things incurred by us and executed by Satan, and then there are other verses and God's laws. So getting to know God is definitely important in our process, knowing God. In 1698, Messenger explains our salvation is attained by knowing God's message to us, the Quran. So, knowing Quran, process of righteousness, getting to know God by all his qualities, these are all important for us to get that level of certainty, inshallah.
All right, peace be upon you guys. Jeff, did you want to continue? It sounds like you got disconnected.